September 27th meeting at 7:03.
Got it.
Assuming
Go ahead.
we're on. Tina, you good? You can hear us okay? It's very important that Tina be able to hear us. She's muted. Just give us a sign if you can hear us. Okay, well, the first, we are gonna have, let me forget to remind me of that one that came up that we didn't put on, that somebody called you that, Blacksmith Street. I know it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, the first item on the agenda tonight is the continued hearing notice of intent for 455 Hartford Avenue, commercial building stormwater management system. Motion, I think pronouncing right, and Mitch Nazlanka, were the applicant and the representatives. They have asked to withdraw their application, so their notice of intent and the application for notice of intent, and they asked to have it done without prejudice. So they plan on coming back at some point in time down the road with a revised plan, apparently. So I think when we have a withdrawal without prejudice, we don't just accept. I think we vote to approve it. Right?
I don't think we have to.
I'm gonna do it on the Carolyn side, but it won't hurt to do that, and in case.
It won't hurt.
I don't
think
remember.
if we've done it
my
because
colleagues-
they've withdrawn, so there's really nothing for us to vote on.
Okay.
There is no
All right.
filing in front of us to vote.
Yeah, I know that this has happened in the past occasionally, but it hasn't been not too often, so I just
No.
want to make sure I'm speaking. Okay, so in that case, we'll pass on that if everybody's in agreement, but that's not necessary. Second item on the agenda is a continued hearing notice of intent, 0 Maple Street, 12,500 square foot industrial building with appurtenances and stormwater management in the outer riverfront. Nick Tiernan and Shane Oates were the applicant representatives. They have also asked to withdraw without prejudice and will be coming back potentially at some future date with some change or modified plans, I guess. So
Was that
that's.
also an NOI or? Yes, it was an NOI. Sorry.
Yeah, it was an NOI.
Yeah.
All right, and now Daniel, in anticipation, has come forward. Great. We have a continuing hearing, notice of intent for 0 Railroad Street, Net Trail Estates. Are they estates? Net Trail Estates or Net Trail
Snap trail.
Development, whatever, it's Net Trail.
Can I?
You're not gonna withdraw, right?
Oh,
No.
We're on a roll. I mean,
Yes.
you know, we could just clear house here, Austin.
How is that?
Faster and better is what I'm concerned.
Hey Pam, can we share with Dan?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Can we give Dan
okay.
sharing rights?
Absolutely, I'll do that right now.
Also, if iPad 2 is Noel, this, from our Conservation Commission, we just need to know that because I need to announce that she is online. That's part of the. As soon as it happens, just so people are aware there's a Zoom member participating, so. If that's you, Noel, you can let us know. Our one board member may be coming in on Zoom, but if we see that, we'll mention it. I don't see it. Okay. So yeah, this is a 6-lot subdivision roadway, continued hearing. Stormwater management. Michael Burr is the applicant and Daniel American from Legacy Engineering is the representative, and we're basically going to hear what you have to say about the review that was done recently by BSC, correct? You're repping that up.
Yes, there were just a couple of things that we left off with at the last meeting. Again, for the record, Dan American with Legacy Engineering. The commission asked that at the crossing, we replace the 2 18-inch pipes that we have with a single 24. And we have done that here. It's a single, what you're seeing is the inlet elevation and the outlet elevation, but it is one single 24-inch pipe in that profile cross section there. The second change that was made is we had asked the planning board to, if they would consider waiving the requirement for a sidewalk, and they said no. So we, within the road footprint that we already had, we have added a sidewalk, and it's on the bottom side of the plan that you see here. No.
Length of the road?
Yeah.
Is it white? Or like white concrete, or is it gonna be asphalt?
It's asphalt paved. And those are the only 2 plan changes. And then you asked that BSC review, and I know Matt's here, but we did do a site walk. And we went out and looked at the crossing, and the plans really haven't changed with respect to the proposed replication area and all of that, and I know you have a memo. From that.
Give the members a chance, some of this information, not yours necessarily, Dan, but some of the information we've gotten on the web page that Hannah set up for us is really new, and some just a little bit older. Just want to make sure everybody on the has had a chance to review Matt's very brief, to the point summary.
And are these drawings on the,
Not these drawings, I don't think I have these drawings.
These revised ones. Dan, did you provide these already electronically to? Okay. I'm gonna look for checking. them out.
was that recently?
I submitted these 3 weeks ago.
Two is, just the review is the last document.
I can tell you when.
No,
Yeah, it's-
3 weeks ago, I should have them.
Okay, so, and Matt, your two comments were basically just that you feel the wetland fill area, which was a relatively small area, meets the criteria for the performance standards and the WPA and Bellingham bylaw regulations as well.
Correct.
And the 24-inch culvert's fine. You don't see any issues with that. The way they had it drawn, I think Noel might have brought up, or maybe Steve did at the last meeting, that the bottom of the pipe, it shouldn't be just a bare pipe. Obviously, it should be continuous with the type of, but that's all been put in the plan.
Right.
Is this the 7-Eleven set?
No, it's an 8/30 plan set, and it was submitted on 8/31.
Yeah, that's the last revision on this one.
Yeah, my 7-Eleven is the time right now. Happens to be 7-Eleven. What's it doing? What's it doing?
And the only other thing that we did submit is, since we have this crossing, the original application forms didn't include that, so I gave you a revised Form 3, a revised fee calculation. I gave you some more money because the fee calculation changed. You got an extra $450. We submitted that to you.
Thank you for taking care of that. Anything else? You or
You
Neil?
guys want Matt
Diane? Is
to say
that,
anything? Do you want Matt to say anything? or-
well, I'm sort of giving him his chance too. Yes, I just want to make sure there anybody that's on the commission doesn't have any questions,
Oh.
which Matt might need to answer also.
No, all looks as we had discussed.
You be good?
Question, Matt, we had a brief conversation post-meeting last time about the design of the bottom of the culvert going under the road. Is that still applicable?
No, I think we can get the best design provides a natural bottom. You know, but in this case, we don't need to
Okay,
we don't have to force that.
okay.
So the ideal thing would be to get a natural bottom if we can accomplish that.
Someone's in the waiting.
But we don't have, I mean, we're not talking about, we're not talking about large migrations or there's not gonna be a lot of traffic
Presumably,
at ground level,
correct.
given what we're connecting to and from.
All right, thanks. Anybody else? Matt, do you have anything else you want to add or?
No, I kept this review because we came in so late to the process, kept it very focused on that one issue and was satisfied with what's on the plan.
All right, well, if no one has any additional questions, I think we can move to accept a motion to move to close the hearing and issue. Do we have no other conditions? Do
No.
we have an order of conditions already back for this?
I don't think anyone's prepared an order for this.
I thought we had talked about doing one, but maybe I'm thinking of another project too. There were multiple orders of conditions that were in different steps, so. So.
So you want me to create
Wait,
a,
so we'll need to accept a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions with. Acceptance of the project for 0 Railroad Street to Smith Trail.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Danielle, all right, any other discussion? Anna,
Just because I'm coming in at the end of this project, is there any special things you would want in the special order of conditions?
well, given you're working with stream bed, what do you think? Is there anything that we've said in the past? It's been a while since we had somebody do something with the culvert like in a stream bed, but.
No, obviously, we're gonna wanna see, sediment erosion, notified you when it's been installed, you can inspect it.
Yeah.
Prior to commencement of construction in that area.
It's such a low flow area. The last time we walked it, unless it's suddenly flooded with all this rain we've been having and got a lot higher. The only other thing I think is when you're doing the road work, sometimes going over an area like that, they have to do dewatering when they're putting in the base and digging stuff out bottom, but.
They shouldn't have to encounter any of that.
There's no groundwater.
Well, I'm just thinking of, keep the sediment from going downstream.
Yeah,
There
let's-
was, but there's almost no stream.
Well, it's plus the erosion control, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a
Redesign.
comprehensive sediment and erosion control plan, we have a SWIP, all of that stuff will be implemented during construction.
So prior to meeting with Hannah prior to construction, mark it out,
So, yeah, you just.
inspect the havens or
Okay.
walls or whatever gets
Okay.
used.
Okay, and Steve, you have any other points? Yeah, all right, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, council. So I'll have Hannah notify you and go to our conditions are prepared and we have signed it. We'll have to make arrangements to do them. We get.
I'll collect it for recording.
You take care of that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your persistence and following through on this. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a project back and forth, but we appreciate you and good luck.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Take care.
Yeah. I don't see Paul here. Did you get word?
Oh, no, I don't know where he is.
Are you people behind Ben? Sorry there. Are either of you here for 10 Cutler Street?
Move it, Dan.
They would make,
Okay, well, there you go.
that's the applicant.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a continued hearing notice for 10 Cutler Street. It's a 44 by 16-foot garage in an in-law apartment in the bordering zone, with 1,000-gallon septic tank. Jody Willis is the applicant. Paul DeSimone, the Colonial Engineering, is the representative. We last left this, that they had asked for continuation 2 meetings ago, I believe, to this meeting. I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, right.
Last meeting. And that was because they were still dealing with the ZBA, and we have not had any update according to our administrator. We have not heard from Paul about this particular project to tell us that he wants another continuation or not.
Do we know if they met? with the CPA? Do they even have a hearing?
They haven't followed through with their application because they basically aren't confirming exactly what they want.
So they're being vague with ZBA,
Yeah,
and therefore
so
they haven't
ZBA
gone to hearing. Okay. all right.
Right, yeah.
So
This filing's been problematic since. And it's been out here a while. I don't know exactly when it was filed. It's been a long time.
Yeah,
And nothing has been done.
we've continued this for a while. I'm just gonna call up the plan real quickly, because I think the plan that was submitted, which I just saw here, and I'm just going to turn it. Can you just turn it on the tab? I'm looking at the date on the plan, just so. There's one way to do it. I'll turn it on.
You can walk this one.
Oh, yeah, sure, I could. I'm going to take time out. Before I order that. I can read it. It's fine. Proposed, April. April, that's all? No, it was revised, most recently revised May 12th of 2023. It's revised before that, April 28th. Yeah, revised April 28th. I don't have an original date. So the plan, I noticed on this plan because it came up with another project at the last hearing that this one is proposing to only have what looks like 3 feet of cover, and I think that Tim was the one who said that another hearing that cover levels have to be in Bellingham significantly higher.
No, I think he's
Mike.
saying that there's a 1 foot maximum and that everyone got variances from that,
Because nobody could meet it,
because it's like, no. different.
right? But, okay, well, I'm not sure, that's a health thing
Mike.
with us anyway.
My first notes on March 22nd where we move it to April 12th, and we've moved it every time since.
Right.
then.
Well, we do have a similar situation which happened at the last meeting with 0 Maple Street, warehouse project where.
It's upside down.
That's right, I'm not gonna worry about it right now, I can play with it when I'm tying up people's time. We had nothing, no word from the applicant, no word from the representatives. And we did not continue it to another meeting because we had no instructions or request to do so from the applicant, and we had no reason to do so since nothing was before us in the way of concrete plans. This is a little different, we have plans, we actually have, I noticed on the set of information that you provided in, that we had at some point in time drafted an order of conditions. Which
Yeah,
was before your time, correct?
yeah, I've
Before.
never, yeah.
Does anybody, do you remember, don't I? Yeah.
No, but.
I don't remember the date.
And frequently started the.
Yeah. Which is fine.
Boilerplate stuff.
So what I'm thinking is that we would do the same thing here unless the commission has other reasons to go in another direction. We basically just don't continue this and wait to hear back since we've extended this multiple times at the applicant's request or their representatives, but in this case, we're not giving instructions to do so. So
We contacted the applicant.
I think we have to continue, but I don't think we have to necessarily provide a date.
They have to request a
They
continuance.
have to request.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we did a little research because
Okay.
because of 0 Maple.
Cause I'm
Street.
learning everything right
Yeah,
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
It doesn't stop Hannah from reaching out still and letting Paul Small, we have not
So-
continued this, and they.
oh,
bring it back up.
did you open the hearing?
Yes, I read it.
Oh,
Because I figured we were gonna have to do something.
so now we have a hearing, now we have an open hearing.
Right.
So now we have to,
I wanted to make sure that Paul wasn't online. There were some people that aren't on Divine and so forth, or the applicant's representative. The applicant is online, but I'm not seeing anything. I'm not hearing anybody speak up that they're online.
So we
Paul
can't-
told me he was gonna be here. Well, I guess he said thanks, Hannah, when I sent him the agenda. So I guess, I don't know what that means.
Can we do like non-committal continuation where we continue it until the applicant responds to it?
no, but they have to request the continuance.
Yeah, if they don't request it like 0 Maple, we just, we are, our understanding is we are not under an obligation unless we chose to, for some reason, feel that we have to or want to. In our interest, continue it, but the applicant has to want to do it and request to do so, so.
Well, whatever we decide, if Paul's not here, is gonna apply to the next 2 after this.
Maybe not. If we have gotten direction or more information, we could act on without, we wouldn't do a hearing, you're right, without our applicant or the representative, we continue. But those we may choose to continue as opposed to this one where it's been extended. It's up to the board, whatever you want to do. We can continue it if you want to, or if we don't. Although we're supposed to get a request.
The ZBA is still doing some work on this, is that correct?
They're just, they're not doing
You're
anything.
in limbo too,
Yeah, they're in limbo.
as are we.
I think we let it go on its own until we hear back from the applicant and then.
What I'd like to ask Hannah is if you could check, because most of
Yeah.
the commissioners know. So let's say we just let it lapse like we did
Yeah.
0 Maple at the last meeting. We haven't ruled against it, we haven't shot it down or anything, we just are not gonna continue it. Does that mean the applicant has to start all over again with the new notice of intent?
No.
Can they pick up where they left off? Do they?
No,
Yeah.
it's still an active filing until we vote to until we vote to
Close
deny.
Right.
Or approve.
We don't have like, a deadline.
Well, that's why I want to kind of make sure of this. If we just let it go and not do anything with it one way, we're not denying it, we're not approving it. We have not closed it out, that hearing officially, denied and or accepted. That we are not putting ourselves in a quandary legally down the road. Matt, do you have some insight that perhaps you could help us?
At 10:03, there's the burden of going forward. Which kind of puts the onus on the applicant. I'm a little concerned because you do, I'm not sure of the answer. But it doesn't feel right. I don't think you can just kind of take this non-action.
Yeah, I feel like that would be terrible for like our record keeping. In addition to. like,
But more to the point of down the road, there may be legal implications for your ability to regulate. So I think that I'd get in touch with the circuit rider and get a clarification on that.
Yeah.
Remember her name? She came this way.
No, but I have spoken with her multiple times. She
Yeah.
gave an already. That presentation I sent you guys was from her, but I don't think that question was answered in the
Oh, look
presentation.
at that.
What?
Sorry, I'm late.
Just
You're
in the
okay.
11th hour as we were trying to figure out how to handle 10 Cutler Street. Welcome, Paul. Thank you for not getting in an accident in your haste to get here. So,
Wasn't
We're just,
nice.
we're just trying to figure out how to deny it.
You're up.
Come on. I know.
We had opened the hearing for 10 Cutler Street. We were discussing whether since you were at the last meeting, maybe you heard us talking about 0 Maple Street and that person didn't come forward, and so we just passed over it. This is the applicant had not requested to continue. Our question to you is, as the representative for Jody Willis and for this project, are you requesting a continuation?
I'm gonna have to,
Okay, well,
Yeah,
without
talk to
you
anybody.
asking, we're debating whether we're allowed to even do that, or whether it has to come from you or
you're
you're.
not asking them big.
Okay,
All right,
so,
You don't want us to close it and vote,
No,
those are the
it's-
two options.
No, because
Okay.
they still have to go to the ZBA and I don't know why they're
Okay.
taking forever. I honestly.
okay,
I will
so,
still figure out the answer to that question.
okay, yeah, so just future implications
Yeah.
and therefore.
So you are asking for a continuance.
Please.
30 days.
A month,
At least a month.
okay,
At least.
that would be the 25th of October.
Let's shoot for Christmas.
25th of October of 2023, we'll just be clear. 10/25. And we're not gonna put a time to this, just because we're talking about.
Yeah, we can schedule a
Timing
time.
on meetings in general.
Yeah, we can schedule a time later. We can just continue to that.
So I will accept a motion to continue the hearing for 10 Cutler Street to the evening of October 25th.
So moved.
That was a time, okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mary Ann. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, all in favor?
Okay.
Okay,
Reluctant.
opposed?
Reluctant.
Reluctant, okay, thank you. Yes, we'd love to see this moving on, but we can't control that at this moment. So, nobody is opposed, so it's unanimous vote, thank you. Move that to October 25th. Coincidentally, the next item on the agenda is 236 Blackstone Street. This is a new hearing, notice of intent.
That's my, I'm sorry, continue.
Not so new continued hearing, that's right. For 236 Blackstone Street, replacing an old septic system, which Paul did a presentation last meeting about. With a 32-foot by 14-foot bed, 6 inches of stone, new distribution box, and 300-gallon septic tank. The applicant is Frederick and Francis Taylor, 236 Blackstone, and the representative Paul Simone from Point Engineering is here. Paul has provided plans. The commission has had an opportunity, if they wish to do so, to view the site. The plans were left under that porch there. I was able to go because I looked real close. Did anybody else get a chance to head out? They sent some pictures. They were in that.
I think it's a document.
It's a considered document, but it's in there. It says, what, site visit or something? You may want to open those pictures if you can, because I was the one that took them and I got a couple of comments to make about the site visit. So that would be helpful. Basically, nothing humongous. As Paul presented in the plan, the septic, oh, sorry. Let me give the applicant, a chance to speak first. Go.
Oh, go ahead, you're doing great.
Okay, so do you have any new information? Anything's changed?
No, the only thing I did was, requested the old system be shown on the plan. So I did that, it's in, red, it should
Right,
show up
I
in
know.
red.
Thank you for doing that.
And again, we're not gonna be removing that unless we hit it with where our system is. The piece that's over towards the wetlands, we're not gonna touch that.
Okay.
Leave it buried.
And basically, all this is happening within a fenced area that is, as far as the actual disturbance of, the
Pretty-
septic field.
Pretty much, yeah. The shed's coming down, you saw the
Yeah,
shed.
there's a step behind there. I saw that. Yes. That was in the-
But it's all previously disturbed and maintained.
Yeah, well, that's where, so.
I know
So
where you're going.
the 25 to 50-foot lines, which are shown on the plans, and, I don't know, Hannah, maybe you can copy of that or the pictures. Can we put that on? Or can, perhaps?
And we had those, we staked those lines.
Yes, I saw the lines. They're nicely staked out, so you can see that in the weird configured zigzag thing. This would be helpful for the commission, I think. The lawn area is within the 25 to 50. It ends, the 25 foot is still grass beyond that somewhat, but then there's a tree line. And that was marked on some of the pictures I took. There is a significant amount of brush, debris, lawn clippings, some Christmas trees, etc. Bushes that have been probably trimmed and cut out. And that was tossed beyond the 25, and in fact, beyond the wetlands some of it was beyond the wetlands edge markings, for DPW. Literally within feet of where I saw some of the brush ending, the cut brush was water. And the wetlands area is pretty high, low water level at this point in time because of all the rain or whatever. Also that drainage easement that you referred to in the plans, Paul, on the side. It's a stormwater drainage or a stormwater 30-foot drain easement.
Right.
I think I asked in the meeting last time that you gave me to understand that was coming from the road, runoff from the road.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there's a drain manhole in the road that it comes from. Where it comes from on the other side, it might
Okay,
be
so
another.
there's wetlands on the other side and the road is higher.
Yeah.
Than the wetlands. So I think given the flow that I was seeing come out down that drainage easement through the riprap and out into the open area. And then flows right into wetlands along that side of the property. That given the volume of water and the fact it had been dry for a couple of days, that it wasn't probably stormwater, it was more, yeah, okay, so there's some of the brush. Thank you, Pam. or-
Yeah, the day we went out there, it was
Hold on.
raining and the water was, well, coming out, so we
Yeah.
assumed it's coming from that drain
So
man.
there's the picture of the stream, the outflow, whatever. It's almost like a stream. It was, you could hear it clearly in the yard, in parts of the yard. And the grass, I'm standing in that picture right on the edge of the grass, slidewise 90 line there and looking through the water. The water's flowing pretty unobstructed for about 20 or 25 feet, maybe 30 feet, whatever, into the wetlands. And then there's a large flat area of substantial looking water amount of water, which is probably gonna go up and down, but run out, drought, whatever, wet rain comes. So that was one area we gotta be careful, I think, to make sure it doesn't get clogged up with water, because if it is drainage from the wetlands on the other side of the road, that's critical. And then
This is the house with the David Pool.
yes, they have a pool there.
Yeah.
This is so this is the two flags you see in the distance. One is the 25 pink flag down the middle of the yard, and then the beyond that is the 50 foot, I believe. So you can see this, these clippings. I'm standing back in the brush a little bit, right near a tree you'll see in a minute, that is marking the BBW. And that dirt looking stuff is basically grass clippings. So it's not, so people have been dumping there for a while, and then this is the tree coming up in the shot
Is
here.
this current owners replacing or is this new people buying?
No, the current owners are replacing. And once it's in and done, they'll put it on the market. The
So,
parents died, so the kids don't live here.
so the 25-foot marker is right there in the front center, and beyond that, that tree that you see in the distance hanging from this right side of the tree is the BBW, one of the BBW flags. And grass clippings are in between there, and then to the right of that and beyond that tree is where I saw brush and tree, Christmas, an old Christmas tree and so forth dumped. So my request will be to, and that's another thing, there's the wetlands flag right there, and this is just on the side of somebody had a garden area that they were trying to maintain. Given the activity there, I'm concerned future owners will not respect the wetlands area unless it's delineated. So in addition to, I think, putting in an order of conditions stating that that area has to be cleaned up, the debris, the usual things that we request when we come across this kind of thing, lawn debris taken. I think we need a series of posts. I was tempted to say a fence, but if they can put enough posts along there and up along the side of the property where that drainage easement is, I don't want people dumping over into that because they think that, oh, I can't dump back, but I could dump to the side. There is some space between that culvert. It's not like a big wide open area that.
No, you're right. It's
So, and that, if that gets clogged up, we could have some real issues. So I would say up along that to where it disappears in the river, it's well, 20 feet or so. Side of the yard, and then whatever the distance I measure across the back.
How often do you want to post every 25 feet?
Oh, no, I think you
20 feet?
You'd only have 3 posts if you did every 25. I'd say 3 or 4 along one side and 3 or 4 across the back. 6 or 8 feet apart. If you're not putting a fence up, given the activity level there, the brush, how it just starts, and people apparently never realized there was wetland back there, or didn't care, and just threw stuff over, and it'll be out of sight. I'd rather have them put a few more posts in it rather than a fence. I'm sure they'd rather do that than a fence.
okay.
And I think that and cleaning it up would take care of those 2 big issues that I saw. Otherwise, I think it was all happening within an already disturbed area, inside a fenced area. They can put the.
And the current systems failed?
So,
Is that the last? I think there's actually one more,
maybe. And it's,
just brush.
yeah,
right?
brush and
Okay.
trees, and just beyond that brush, there's a green bush, and beyond that bush, there's water, so they're right to it. And well beyond that, the BBW one. So, Anyway, that would be good if we could do that.
And that'll all be removed by hand.
Yeah, it's-
You put that right in the order of conditions, then.
Yeah, we don't want machinery in there clearing it up.
Because we have the removal of the shed, we have the erosion control protection in place. Paul did indicate on the plans as we have requested that they show the existing septic. Anybody have any additional questions? We're going to talk about clearing up the brush, putting in posts every 8 to 10 feet, but at least 3 or 4 across the back and at least 3 or 4 across on the right side.
The
Just
exist-
for,
Go ahead,
my-
Emma. Yes, she did, yeah. Okay.
just for my clarification for when I write the order conditions, are we putting the erosion stuff in before or after the fence is removed? And the shed is removed, or does it happen before?
That'll be before.
Before, okay, I just want to make sure.
That'll be the first thing. What he'll do is he'll put it in, call you. So you can come look at it.
Okay, any other Steve?
You said the existing systems on the new drawings are red?
Not a PDF, the ones that we had in person,
The ones I gave you.
in person, yeah,
So they're not in the folder.
they're not in the folder.
We have
That's-
certain copies provided, but, you know, I saw them on the printer.
Yeah, you wanted ones that you could see the contours a little better, so I printed new. New plans. Are they still out there?
Probably.
I put them in a plastic bag because I anticipated rain, so I took my one set, I didn't bring it with me, unfortunately, I should have grabbed it, but I left it at home. So, yeah, I did see it, it was indicated on the plan, and it's pretty close to the house.
Yeah.
But it did seem to be staying within the fence line and next to the pool, and I guess you guys are maintaining the distance you have to from the pool.
20 feet from the pool, yeah. I mean, the pool wasn't the greatest looking thing, but still gotta stay away. from it.
Steve?
Nothing.
Okay, all right. Okay, so.
And we have BOH approval?
We do.
Okay, and if there are no other questions, I'll accept a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions with the aforementioned condition. You got them all handled there?
Yep.
Good, okay, and issue it when we get it signed. So moved. Neil, thank you. Secondary and thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
You don't need to say.
Opposed? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I like that. We should have all the applicants stand for their presentations, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't present any.
Yeah.
That was last meeting.
Yeah, for the later arrivals, I had mentioned at the beginning, point of information that the microphones that we've been speaking into, so Jill and Jillian were, I think there's the one on that table previously, have been moved away because those only work for the online cameras, for cable 8 cameras. These speakers are actually, microphones are actually up in the ceiling, and some blue lights and 2 of the ceiling grids, and those are where microphones are, so you don't have to look upward as you speak, but remember that's where they are. So people online, a couple
Project.
people have commented that they couldn't hear some of the hearing because we were speaking to these thinking, now we know. So we'll move right along to the next hearing, which is continued.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we're, I think we're, before you open it, we're in the same situation I think we were in.
Well, we were hoping
The last-
have not seen her here.
I don't know who management is.
Well, if meeting room,
Or, oh,
if meeting room is Noel, could you unmute and state that's the case? We have one member that was gonna try to zoom in. She wasn't able to be here in person today, but we have not yet seen any indication that she in fact is.
Is that, Neil's?
Neil's iPad? Oh, oh, you mean Steve's iPad?
No, whatever this is,
I didn't realize that.
it's a tablet. That could be meeting room. That could be me.
I don't know, that was there before I thought, anyway, okay, well, so, to your point, Mr. Crowley, I was anticipating not being sure of a couple members' status, beforehand. I had discussed with Hannah the idea that if all you were doing today was to provide an update on what happened at the workshop, 2 workshops that you had, that being able to review those without any further important, not important, everything's important, right? Any other information being shared with us wouldn't probably jeopardize anything with Mullin Rule, I don't think, because that was just providing a factual update on something that the board member who's not here knew about, and reviewing what was discussed both in written form, which we received a summary just today. None of us have really had a chance to. It's up to you though. You don't have to do that. I don't know enough to know whether I'm not an expert on the Mullin Rule, but I think that that could be probably addressed in a having that member read the information that's been provided in print form, which we just received today, and hearing or watching the replay of this. If that's all we covered, if we get into major stuff, then we might have to have a further update. And given the length of this hearing, we know this is going to happen again. There's no way that for the current 5 members that are on the commission for an extended period. We already have had the problem, you know, the previous long-term hearings where it's been months or years we're working on.
So we've managed to keep this one, it's gone pretty well. Actually, this particular member is the only one who's already missed once. She was,
Noel did this one?
Noel missed, the very first meeting we presented at. At the time, we had a few extra members on the commission.
Right.
And so this would be her second miss according to our record.
I trust your record on that. I didn't remember that. Again, this has been going already with your status on the project, not to mention there was a previous one that I had, Neil, and I think we were the 2 members on at the time that dealing with the shops issue.
Sure.
So, and that was years in the making, and I think that the plan at the time for the commission before we did our final thing with that was that they had an update hearing, which our commission members at the time, especially the chair at that time, believed based on some advice he had gotten, maybe legal, I'm not sure. That would suffice to bring everyone up to speed if it was a formal meeting, open meeting where everything was reviewed. And the people that had missed whatever meetings along the way had stated that they had seen the minutes and read or watched the recordings, whatever, both for the meetings that they might have missed. I don't know if that's still the case. I would probably want to make sure of that.
I had not confirmed it following the last meeting. The conversation I've had to this point, I don't know if Brian or Austin have any different perspective on it, is despite doing that, it's our understanding that it doesn't overcome the requirements of the Mullin Rule, that they're allowed to miss up to 1 is our understanding of it, and then they can confirm that they've watched that meeting, reviewed the minutes, et cetera, and
Just to catch up on the one, yeah, okay, I would say,
that they can.
if you want us to put it off, we can do that, we can continue it, certainly.
Can I just
Janet
try
had
to-
some input.
Call her first, because she did tell me she was gonna be on, so maybe she can just, well, actually, does anyone have her number? That would,
The other number here, I have the one she gave us on that list.
Yeah, that would be worth the.
yeah, just so you don't. Yeah, I'll just,
Yeah, well, we've done a recap meeting.
Did we
Yeah,
do-
then-
Yeah, it may have only been for somebody.
not yet.
He asked for just a brief, just to see if we continue, all these sketches run, so we're running, so I think we'll be okay. But thanks, yeah, you know, and.
All of this.
Yeah, so,
More than that.
what do you know about the ballroom, room, Matt? We've been in a lot of meetings.
This gets out of my depth pretty quick.
I'm not gonna push you on it.
Yeah.
I know enough to know that I don't know for sure legally where we stand on this. We need
In
to
the
get
past,
that-
we've done
Yeah,
recap meetings and we were reasonably assured at the time that covered us, but if the applicant
Well,
doesn't see it that way, has different information, then that's up to them.
yeah, and frankly, I would want to make sure for future, because of that, while we might be able to deal with this particular absence right now, one way or another, and know it. This is a small board right now, only 5 instead of 7 members. We hope to get more members, but we don't know when that'll happen. When that happens, we have a new member come on. We also need to find out what the story is of that. How can they be brought up to speed and become a voting member on this very
I
extended?
don't believe they can. I honestly, I don't.
They may not be able to. If Steve can't, then we have
Yeah.
real quandary because we won't have a quorum at that point in time. We won't have four members out of 7. We won't have maybe 3 potentially. The 3 of us would be the only ones that could vote on it down the road. And that's hoping that none of us miss a meeting or 2.
That's why we're being a little bit
Yeah.
particularly
The
sensitive
same
about.
position with Neil
attendance
last time,
and
was
stuff.
to make sure we didn't
I thought it was just because you missed me.
use it was.
Well, that's why I'm here tonight. That's why I'm here tonight.
It's a big turnout, everybody's here.
Should I say, I missed Neil into the microphone?
Yeah, into the blue lines up there so that it gets picked up.
Okay, so, we'll see what Hannah is able, if she's able to track down, no one get her on the phone. You guys are down the road a little ways in the agenda, so, if you wouldn't mind, I want to get back to Paul for a few minutes.
Oh, sorry.
because we'll let him get on to his next one. He's got a couple here tonight, so this is his third one.
I jumped, I saw it, I thought we were on it, so.
I don't mind, great.
I thought he was about to open me, so that's why.
No,
Thank you, sorry.
thank you. All right, so we'll continue with the notice of intent hearing for 12 and 15 Chase Street and Hartford Avenue. Construction of a two-family home. The applicant is Tom Steves of 15 Chase Street. The applicant's representative Paul DeSimone of Colonial Engineering. And well, Paul, why don't you tell us what the status in your understanding is?
Okay, so I guess we're at odds with the proposal, but we're at odds with.
And my recollection from discussing this with the administrator and looking at my notes and seeing what had been recorded from the meeting on the 13th was that what we had agreed to do was to have notify BSC that you had an issue of, was our consultant provided you with a proposal, just for the record, for services that we want to have take place on the site for wetlands delineation, et cetera, and that proposal was going to had caused you some concern and your applicants, your clients' concern for the cost and what was being covered, and that what we had, in addition to notifying the SC of your concern, we said that we had hoped you would provide us with what specific points of concern you have to make sure that we were doing
Well,
the same scope of service, apples to apples. Is the short version.
Basically, the whole proposal, I mean. I bought this flag, the entire site for $1,200, they want 17 to review a quarter of it. I mean, that just doesn't work. And that's right off the bat, that's just to walk around, I estimate to view the flags around the area we need to look at is an hour, if that. And I talked to Karen, who flagged it, she goes, yeah, if we're out there more than an hour, she'd be surprised. I mean, that's just,
So
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Without getting into the cost comparison, because I'm not a good judge of that, and we have never, to my knowledge, asked our representatives, BSC or anybody else in the past, to change any figures. I'm not, negotiating prices or anything like that. I want to focus just on the scope. So you're saying the entire scope of what was in BSC's proposal is not what your scope is for what your applicant you were done for your applicant in preparing a comparison? Because we want to focus on the scope. If BSC is proposing only what you would have been doing and only what they feel is needed, and you're matching on the scope, then it's just a price differential. That's one thing. If it's the scope is different, we need to know from you where you think the scope is.
well, after they walk the line for the flags, I'm not quite sure what they're gonna review, the application submission. It's just.
Drawings. And compare them against. the code.
It's a duplex with some grading, it's not we're not proposing a drainage, this is just ridiculous.
And the DEP letter that I saw in the files, have you?
Yeah,
answered
we'll
all
deal
those
with that.
questions?
I'm just talking about the proposal, my client just doesn't want to pay that, I mean, we charged them, well, I guess you want to talk about price, but.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Anyways.
appropriate to, you can.
No, that's
Not something we really have ever gotten into. Some applicants don't want to pay the price, and that is their option.
And they're free to pull their NOI and
That is,
stop the
that
project.
is the only alternative I've ever heard given, which is that the applicant doesn't want, we respect that their choice to not agree with the value of the price. We have a peer reviewer who we have a lot of confidence in their integrity and their ability, their competence to do the
I'm
job.
sure they do great work.
Right, but, and I was gonna say, as a result of that, we don't foot the bill, the applicants do, we understand that, so we're respectful of it, but on the other hand, the only option, if we don't feel comfortable in walking out and doing all that reviewing and stuff with ourselves, which I've made clear, I am not, and I don't know if any of the other members want to take it upon themselves, but I'm not qualified to get involved in that scope of a project, as simple as you might state it is, and so we want to have a peer review done, and BSC, we feel is a good choice of a company, and price aside from what you feel, and the only question I have for Matt is there anything in the scope, only the scope of the work that you feel is optional, that compared to other types of projects you've done for us and your company's done for us in the past, that is something that might be in addition to what we might have normally done?
No, really, at this point, because we don't look in depth at the project proposal when preparing a scope, we just kind of take the typical approach to what the review process requires. It is a time and materials basis that we bill on, so if we've estimated 4 hours for site work and it only takes an hour, that's, that affects the final billing, and so, that's kind of where we make an estimate based on experience.
If-
For this kind of thing.
Just for clarification, for board members who maybe about taxes, on the flip side, if it takes longer to do something than the proposal, do you come back to the commission? Have you done that in the past for projects that work?
No, I eat that.
But as also clarification, projects where like the SNET trail, we did not have any money allocated. We asked BSC to give us a price, even though there had not been one for a proposal for a limited scope, and he did so. So there could be situations where we go back to BSC and say, we need to get, proposal, which.
And like with WS, this has gone, sort of the track of review has left the original proposed scope, so we've had to go back for change orders to cover additional work.
So this is time and material not to exceed the stated amount.
Right.
So the best way to efficiency is make sure, Paul, your drawings meet code and are up to speed so we can breeze through them.
Yeah, I got no problem with that. It's just the initial deposit was like $6,000, right?
So, but let me make sure I understand, because again, I never really got into the money part of this, so it was handled by the administrator in the past. Matt, if you have a proposal, total on my proposal, he's at 6,000, but that was.
I can look it up.
Okay, so say $6,000 for argument's sake is the amount of the project proposal from you. And you do the work and it comes in at 3,000, because again, time and material, you got things, do things fast, the plans are straightforward, everything lined up with its delineations. There was no issues with wetlands that need to be clarified or whatever extra work. Then you would resubmit a final bill that would be $3,000, let's say, and you would reap your client would reap the benefit of having saved that, but we don't know that for sure. So
Right.
I don't know how to get beyond what Matt has just said. He's giving you the ballpark. That's the way they traditionally do things. It's not.
I deal with proposals all the time.
Right, sure.
Just,
This, if this client does not want to, Don, it just, I guess I'm gonna ask, does your client understand that this is a upper end figure and probably, especially if plans and everything is straightforward, may come in lower?
He wasn't too happy. He
I'm
put it that way.
not asking if he's happy. I'm just saying.
He
does
just
he
looked at the
understand that?
proposal and that's what you want up front. That's, that was just over the top.
With the knowledge that it could be refunded in a fairly short period of time, this is not gonna be, well, I won't say that.
Well, I don't think we can go there because I don't think we can speak to refunds.
Right.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm just saying this is the practice that's been done. I want to identify that has been done in the past. I'm not saying it will be done in this case. Well, maybe it costs just as much as Matt has proposed, and your client would have to be willing to pay up to that. But I want to make sure that the client has the understanding that it could potentially, but not guarantees, be less. If he understands it, I don't say he's happy with it, then he's making an informed decision. If he didn't know that, he came back later and said, oh, nobody told me that it could have been in lower.
No, I told him that it may go lower, but chances are.
That's what I wanted to be clear on. For the record.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a
Yes,
question? Is the client opposed to that amount or posting any amount
No,
for
that
peer
amount,
review?
that amount.
But what would
When
your
I-
recommendations?
When I talked to him, he says, if you want to go in town, I'll give him $2,000 up front to start. That's what he's willing to do.
I don't think we're
But,
in negotiating.
that's not any.
Situation,
Yeah,
yeah.
$6,000, so.
Yeah, the other issues I don't think I've heard, and enhanced you knew to know this, maybe Neil remembers. I don't think we ever had it phrased as a $2,000 up front, and then you come back for more if you need it. We don't work on that. I think we take the proposal, the applicant funds the proposal and that proposed amount, and then if they're eligible for refund, fine, but we don't come back to the applicant again during the middle of the project, say, okay, we've used up that amount of money and now, are you gonna be willing to come up with some more because they're involved? We want to know that the proposed amount, at least, if the proposal changes, the scope changes, the applicant changes the scope, or we determine that there's a lot more involved, that's different, but if the
I
upfront.
understand that,
proposal- Okay, so I don't think we've ever been in a position, just the newer commissioners, Marianne and Steve. No, I don't think Neil and I have ever seen anybody propose it that way, and so.
It doesn't really make sense from a peer review standpoint, if it's all for peer review of the project, it's all for the same activity, then it wouldn't make sense to fund half of it.
And this is contrary to, this is a complicated site.
For review purposes, I don't think so.
For permitting purposes, and that's part of our review is, I don't think this is, I think this is a very difficult, based on what I've seen, this is a very difficult site.
I mean, I
I
remember
think
no
that's,
fees about
that might be one of the issues that he.
Well, there's a lot of issues with this, there's a lot of issues with this,
I think-
access wetlands, amount of disturbance,
Yeah, we have a filling replication. Yeah, it's not your typical.
crossing and
so
so,
there's a lot going on for a duplex.
I
So,
think there's some bylaws that don't. Aren't completely met.
oh, probably, yeah.
So I think.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of conflict issues with this, based on what we've seen from the.
I'd like to go back to my client and
Okay.
tell him,
All right, so I think that the response from the commission, unless I hear somebody say that they don't agree with this, is that we have heard the applicant's concern about the cost. We understand it. We've discussed briefly with our peer reviewer the scope of the work. It seems that you have an issue with the price of the scope of the work, not the overall scope of the work. I haven't heard you say, Paul, that you've seen his proposal, and you haven't said to me that anything in the scope of the work you feel is totally the scope, not the price.
No,
Is wrong.
no.
Okay, so having seen that and heard that, I think our response is that if the applicant chooses to pay the fee, fund the proposed amount in its entirety upfront, knowing that if they're eligible for a refund, they would get whatever's left after the fact. But we're not promising anything, and that if they don't choose to do that, then we aren't going to continue with this hearing and this project review. We'll put it on, we can continue it if you want to discuss that with your applicant, your client.
well, I gotta continue with that.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely. tonight.
That's it. Okay, so we'll continue, but that's where we're coming from, and it's basically to them, I guess, to decide whether they want to fund it or not.
Okay.
Okay, so
And in the case that if he doesn't wanna go with the funding, you just deny the project, correct?
I guess that's the appropriate step for us,
Or he could withdraw without prejudice.
or yes.
He won't do that, so.
Which would allow him to come back.
Well, it would let him come back with a new plan if he wanted to,
Yeah, you could,
Oh,
so.
but I'll talk to him.
Yeah.
we aren't denying the project. He's opting to stop it on his own accord.
Right.
Well-
It's,
but legally,
Legally,
We end up saying, as it's happened on another project, if the applicant decides they don't want to fund peer review and make that we need it.
It's their option.
We're entitled to do that. We are, within our scope to do that. We usually, I think we did that.
it falls under not providing us the information request.
Fair enough. I will talk to him.
All right, so, you
But
think,
I need a.
two weeks?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Please.
So I'll accept motion to continue the 12-15 Chase Street and Hartford Avenue hearing to, what is the date of our next meeting?
the 11th.
The 11th of October, time to be determined. Waiting for motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Second, anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne.
Time to be determined.
Time to be determined because we're gonna, I don't know. Times. And,
How are we notifying when the time is? You just,
Oh, she gives me I get a schedule.
Yeah.
She's good about that.
so.
Also posted at least.
Yes, yeah,
48 hours or whatever.
I tried the Friday before, but legally Monday night is when I have to.
So we have motion and discussion. In a second, thank you. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Thank you, unanimous, thank you. All right, thank you, Paul.
All right,
Appreciate it.
Paul.
hopefully I'll have some good news. this week.
Okay,
All right, thanks, guys.
thank you.
Yeah, you might get lucky. She just texted me saying, give me a sec.
Oh,
I,
Yeah.
found this, so to be fair, this is 2014 regulation, but I did updated it from 99 CMR 10.05. Thing 5, public hearings for conservation commission. Which have been held within the state of the minimum requirements. They may be continued as follows, without the consent of the applicant. After the hearing within 21 days.
Yeah.
Now they can start to be up to a date, announce the hearing within 20 days of the date, you know. They didn't want that to be out.
I think we're gonna make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can with them,
With,
with them. So the first one is the only one that really, in this case, because we haven't agreed upon, but we've continued it once. Without, to another date, without any, request by the applicant. Good question is, do you only have to do it once?
Well, there's a bunch of like weird.
Because way past the 21 days penalty, and I think we're probably just gonna. I have that.
Yeah, what was the citation that you were looking at?
I think it's 10.05 3. I wish they just had the tabs. 3C5. Maybe. Nope, that's not it. It's on this page. I'll give you the page if you want. This is 2014, so I think it's been updated since, but section 5, public hearings by conservation. Commission.
That's good enough, thanks.
Are there new drawings?
The drawings that you sent out on the link there, was that was still, there was one that's older than,
I did, yeah, because we had like 15 or whatever, so I only gave you guys the overview one, but I'm assuming Austin's gonna show specifically what he's planning to talk about. I asked her.
Yeah, I'm just gonna-
Okay.
I don't want to open it until we get official word.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, so she said, give me a second, that was at 7:56, so.
which is okay.
It booted me out. Neil kicked me out of the meeting.
sorry,
No,
sorry.
No, you're not. Is it hot spot really? I don't know, I've had that. The cell phone wasn't very earlier. Got a piece of signal right now.
All right. There we are.
Jeff and Austin, I apologize for not making Monday. My,
No need. Missed you.
Oh, I have the meeting at the school.
my wife was having,
Got multiple copies of names.
her DBS programming turned on for her Parkinson's.
If we're waiting for a sec, the first thing on other business is very brief. The first thing says electronic signatures. I have a software where you guys can just sign order conditions, compliances. I send them straight to your email. You review it, sign it. It does a timestamp, so I can't change the document. And legally, we're allowed to do this in Norfolk as long as I wet signature before I send it over to them.
Oh.
Yeah, that was like a COVID
So
rule.
The county registry of deeds has come into the 21st century.
I guess, and they're even changing the law for January where I won't even necessarily need it.
So COVID may have prompted this, but
Yes.
it may be continuing beyond if there is ever an easement of COVID.
Listen, COVID's not over,
Oh, I'm just
wanna
trying to say
tell
it. I'm not saying it.
Can you?
We got one next to it.
especially the European version.
All right, yeah, so that is something we've been trying to do, because struggling with getting people in to sign things, so these two. Or the condition that we just approved tonight to have eventually, after they're created and created by Hannah. Pass over. So are we gonna see the same document? Oh, go ahead.
I know, I'm talking to Noel, sorry.
My question is whether we'll see the same document be passing it around, or each of us signing it in.
Nope, it's one, it's all the same. You'll see who signed it.
Okay.
Yep. My husband's a real estate agent. He uses this all the time. I was
What's it
like,
called?
Dot loop,
Dot loop,
yeah,
opposed to DocuSign or.
yeah,
dot loop.
you have to pay for, yeah, so.
Yeah, you guys use Doc Loop?
DocuSign, not document.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's much of a difference other than the last part of the word. Might be the same company, may even be the same company that sell the fees.
Yeah.
Fees.
Actually printed by signature. March of 2020. Anything, and all DocuSign.
Oh, the other thing was Blackstone Street.
Yeah. if you want-
So we noticed today, after a couple of people called in and up asking about it, that at the last meeting on September 13th, I think it was, that we had.
The 23rd, actually.
Oh, sorry, right, thank you,
Uh-huh.
August 23rd, that we had a public hearing continuation for Blackstone North Street where at 8:15, when we had the hearing, they requested continuation, and we thought we had. We actually had continued it to tonight. First thing, so a couple of members, people, even though the minutes for the 23rd have not been posted officially, we're getting them tonight and checking those off. Some people had remembered or watched the meeting back on the 23rd and heard that, that are interested parties, butters. So that was an omission on our part. We probably in the future, what we're going to do is make sure that even ones that have been posted. Or even ones that have requested continuation, which they have, so we don't have anything to discuss about that tonight. That we make sure that's on the agenda, just as a placeholder where we state like we have for some of the earlier ones tonight, that was left off. So I'm officially stating for anybody that's watching that we are not going to be hearing the Blackstone and North Street project tonight. They have requested a continuation fairly recently.
Last week,
Yeah.
it was before the agenda.
Right, okay, so we omitted putting that on there, but we're not gonna be hearing them, they're gonna be continued, and did they give a time?
Just the 25th. And Noel is here.
Oh, great. So we're gonna, when we get done with 217 Hartford, we're gonna be moving to some other business, and I'm gonna make a motion to continue that to Blackstone and North.
So we're the 11th and 25th next month.
Yeah.
And then just one in November.
They,
We used to meet on Thanksgiving Eve.
oh, that,
Yeah, we did.
People
Oh,
gave thanks.
I wouldn't show up.
No, we used to meet on Thanksgiving Eve and it was usually a short meeting followed by
food,
a bar.
Libations.
okay, maybe I would show up.
It was usually a bar, yes.
All right, well, thank you, Noel, for participating, appreciate it. We're trying to maintain the mold rules, since it was pointed out that you perhaps had missed one meeting before, and even if you had to catch up, we didn't want to, the applicant did not want to endanger the pool of potential voting members who are legit to do something.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we will continue the hearing for notice of intent, 217 Hartford Ave, open this tonight for 700,000 square foot warehouse with BBW Bank land underwater impacts under the WPA with mitigation of 358 square feet of isolated wetland and vernal pools under the bylaw with mitigation. Jeff Curley is the applicant, and representatives include Andrea Kendall, who is not here, but a bunch of other people. Brian, why don't you guys just identify yourself for the record on this?
Sure. Austin Turner with Bowler. Jeff Curley with WS Development. Brian Madden with LEC.
Thank you.
Molly Gasberry, WSL.
You gotta yell into the blue light.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna start, I think, Austin, with the summary for the record. We had approved two workshops, working meetings, I guess it was phrased, between BSC. At least one representative from Concom was able to make one of those two meetings, and Hannah represented the Conservation Commission as well as the town for both of those meetings. And they happened in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'd say we've had 2 meetings in the last 3 weeks. Yeah.
So if you want to summarize how those went first, and then want to give Matt a chance to add his 2 cents worth after you do the initial presentation process. We just received the information summary from DSC about that and how that went today. So I don't think any of the board members, and myself included, have really had a chance to read it. So we'll hear what you have to say for that, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Sure, of course. So we kind of the structure that we outlined at our last hearing, and then we had exchanged an email with Hannah just to kind of give her kind of memorialize what we had talked about here, just to make sure everybody's understanding how those meetings wanted to go. In my view, and I suspect Steve, who was at the first one, and Matt would agree, very collaborative in nature. We presented some kind of high level plans. And like I said before, we weren't looking for answers necessarily as much as we were looking for kind of feedback and like live streaming thoughts and making it more of a, as you described it, a working session. Both those things were probably about an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes or so. I personally found them incredibly valuable in the sense of being able to kind of get in there, roll up your sleeves a little bit and start getting a bit more kind of granular with the things we were talking about. What I thought we would do, I'd pop up the plan and kind of show you what we talked about. We've had some exhibits we prepared, which I'll send hard copies to the commission for. We had some exhibits that we used to facilitate that conversation. And it gave us, a little bit more direction. We're prepared to do the next thing that we had talked about with Matt and with Steve. Before we did that, obviously, the important thing for us is to make sure that the items we had talked about there and some of the things that we were kind of brainstorming, the commission agreed with what we were thinking about collectively as that kind of collaborative group. That's why we're here tonight. So part of it's to catch up on how those meetings went. Second, to make sure that the things that we think make sense to do next, you agree that they make sense to do next. So I will pop my screen up. And I already had hosting rights. That's pretty cool. Thank you for that. All right. So this plan here, just kind of an overview, and I have detailed views for this, but what this plan is, the areas that are highlighted in kind of that bright green represent the areas that we are proposing for direct mitigation of wetlands. So those are areas that will become wetland. The areas that are in pink are areas that are representative of the current buffer restoration program. Now, some of these areas, if you go into the Wayback Machine, we had discussed in some of the sidewalks that may not, in the commission's view, be best for that buffer mitigation. So this isn't reflective of any changes we made. The first thing we wanted to do, working with Matt and the commission, is get some level of concurrence that the general locations, shapes of the wetland mitigation made sense. And those are going to be informative to how some of that buffer restoration might work too. So we haven't kind of tinkered too much yet with the buffer stuff. That's going to come next, but it's going to be heavily influenced by how the mitigation comes together. So we thought that made first next step. Generally speaking, we have, I don't know if the cursor shows up in here, it doesn't, but the upper left corner, you'll see that kind of that green polygon with the 4 blue dots on it. Those are test pits that we completed in the field. That was the area we saw on one of our site walks that looked, the leaves were kind of gladed, they were a little bit gray, and it looked like it had some seasonal hydrology, if you will. And then when we did some hand augering, we noticed that there was a restrictive layer that may have been 15 or 18 inches down. The test pits that we did out there confirmed that around that boundary, there was a restrictive layer. And I think we had talked about this previously. We think that's some of the washout that they had done when they were cleaning off stone or whatever they were pulling out of the quarry. And that silty kind of, or the fines compacted and created a dense layer.
How thick was that layer? In the test pit area anyway.
Maybe a foot or so.
That's all.
Yeah, maybe a foot or so.
So about 18 inches down, and then you had a foot of not quite impervious, but dense material.
Yeah, very silty, very compacted.
And then beyond that, what was the light below that?
Pretty good stuff, actually. Yeah, pretty good stuff. It was what we're seeing throughout most of their site. Some loamy sand, maybe some cobbly stuff, but that area is very well defined, which kind of further reinforced why we think it was related to some of the washing of stone, because it had a very distinct footprint of it. We tried to keep this without, rather than talk about it. So this is that area blown up. The screen didn't move. Is it laggy?
It was a little bit
It
when I
looks like it might be frozen.
There it goes. Okay. little suspense there. So this area, what we tried to do is outline it for two things. One, the area that we found to be restrictive. Two, in the areas, you can kind of see the contours, these bunched up contours here are those ridges and those rock piles that are kind of artificially there. So the idea is remove those rock piles, level that area out, and kind of place that in elevation. We're gonna work with Matt, Brian, to create topography in there. Use that restrictive layer, and then use some of the engineered materials that we're gonna introduce to make it a wetland. And we really feel good about its potential to be a functioning wetland system. And some of the hydrology will be influenced by the stormwater systems that we have that are contributing here, that are really designed to kind of mimic how the hydrology has been functioning in this area as well. So in terms of its sustainability, we feel pretty good about it. That's the one area that's fairly new. We had talked about it at a high level maybe a month or so ago. The next step for us, provided the commission felt it appropriate to advance into like what we're calling more of a schematic design for this, and have Matt continue to oversee that, would be to grade this out and really put some engineering or some more engineering behind it, so that Matt can really kind of get into the mechanics of it and start exploring how we want to construct that.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, so you're taking the area that's entirely within the green because of the way that dense, whatever, I want to say not perch, somebody used another word when we're on sidewalk.
I usually call it restrictive layer.
Restrictive layer that covers, and turn that into wetlands above the restricted layer, because it sounds like using the restricted layers, what you said at one point in time, as well as some additional engineering materials.
Yeah.
So you want to keep that impervious, more or less impervious layer, 12 inches or 18 inches down, and build on top of it and then create wetlands and leave that layer as impervious, or would you?
Well, if you
remove that
get
layer?
rid of the impervious layer, it won't function as a wetland,
Right, well, it needs to,
because it won't hold any water.
well, it needs to let somewhat, I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So you're basically sealing off a lot more, or is it basically?
It's a combination of things, and
That's not.
Brian can speak to it probably a little better than I can, but.
Yeah, so we're gonna do some micro contouring in here, but the overall concept is to lower the overall grade. At least 2-3 feet. There will be some undulations, some lower pits. The restrictive layer that is encountered will be stripped, stockpiled, and spread out. There will be a need to supplement that with soil amendments, clay type material, or silty loams that get compacted, that create that perched groundwater condition.
Where you've dug below the layer that's there now in creating undulations again, because you're saying 2 or 3 feet down, and Austin just basically identified that's about the range of the compacted
Exactly.
material. So you are more or less dealing with all the restricted material, digging it up and so forth.
Yeah, and reapplying it, because right now that area sits in a bowl depression with some steeper topography. There's a micro watershed there. We want to enhance that a little bit more. And then, as Austin said, it's going to be augmented by the superficial hydrology with the stormwater runoff, which is clean discharge.
And the black lines at the bottom, is that a parking area?
Yes.
That's what-
Yeah.
So was that a new parking area, or is that when you're talking about with more compact car spaces that you were adding and stuff
So
like that?
that parking area there has been
You
included.
tweaked that.
We reduced the footprint, we made it more compact. And then what you can see, kind of that green boundary, is the outer limits of the area that Brian just described. And we left a healthy offset from that pavement to maintain kind of an implied buffer there.
And none of the drainage, no drainage is going to be going, this is not going to function as a drainage.
I'm not using it to attenuate stormwater. Stormwater that I'm gonna move, which this used to be a surface stormwater
Right.
basin.
But
I'm
that,
gonna put that under the parking lot, and then I'll have controlled release from that stormwater basin to help facilitate hydrology to the wetland system we create.
So that's the only.
Yeah, but I'm not counting it in terms of attenuating into my stormwater flows. It's kind of downstream and an afterthought. It's not,
you're not just running a pipe in.
unless you want me to.
No. That would be bad.
So that's one.
So
And
you're gonna use mechanical compaction? What happens if that doesn't work?
Good question. I think we can talk about some contingencies. Maybe it'd be better if we build it out a little bit and then circle back to that.
And define doesn't work by, doesn't hold water.
Yeah, so one of our targets here, is to create vernal pool habitat, so that's gonna be very, identifiable target. You know, with the perched groundwater wetland system replication area, you can spec out more, facultative, species that do occur in wetlands primarily, but also can survive drier type conditions. We're gonna dial that in a little bit more, give more specifics on that. But I'm confident we can create ponded areas, at least seasonal.
And we're gonna have our standard 3-year bonded monitoring period and programs going forward, just to make sure that the survivability and have metrics that we can hit along.
Yeah, and obviously,
As we normally do.
if we're not hitting those metrics, we need to come back to you and discuss how to resolve that. You know, whether that means it could be a simple tweak to the area, or it could be something substantive. I feel confident with the proper oversight and creation of these areas, they should function as.
Within that green area, you're proposing any vernal pools?
Any-
And that you said you were gonna try to create vernal pools. I wasn't sure if you're referring to this area or other areas.
No, this area in particular, yes.
So, give me a ballpark sense, is like the 4 little dots that are shown there about the size of the vernal pools and the scope of things there, or is it gonna be substantially larger areas that are gonna be vernal pools?
Substantially larger.
The impact
So
on existing vernal pool areas is, I don't remember the square footage and so forth, but it's a fair bit.
exactly, and we want to be above that 2-to-1 ratio, certainly with vernal pool creation. This is where the next step is gonna come in, where we hone in on the grading and give you more detail on square footages.
While you're doing that, I know that you've already been preparing for quite some time to come up with, as I think has been mentioned, I know I mentioned it a couple of times, but some sort of, not just detailed plan, but some sort of verification for us that we have confidence in the vernal pool can successfully be created, since we have not yet seen that happen. And while you have a high degree of confidence, I've heard it, and you need to, because you're the person proposing to do it, but yeah, I'm gonna need some real convincing, so we're gonna be looking for that down the road, and when it's appropriate.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, Steve.
But I think they're proposing, removing some layer now. You said mention grading and do some additional research work. Is that what you're asking?
Oh, the next step now?
Yes.
So the next step for us, presumptively speaking, the commission says, okay, these locations make sense to explore further. We as a team would advance, you know, right now, some of these are new and they're a shape on a plan. We have a sense in our head what the grading wants to look like, as Brian described, the micro topography in there. We have to advance this to kind of a high schematic level, have another working session with Matt, get his input in there and make sure that we're stepping through these designs linearly and it's all making sense every step of the way. The first thing is making sure the commission agrees with our approach that we've talked about with Matt, because Matt can speak to this too. Coming out of the meeting we had, was it Monday night? Right. There was a general consensus in the room that these locations made sense, with a very big asterisk. Let's go talk to the commission to make sure that everybody's thinking the same thing we are too. We want to take this to the next level. We need your concurrence on approach to do that now.
Which would be taking some machinery in there.
No. This is all planned design stuff. There's no physical work happening right now. Unless you make a motion to approve tonight, then we can.
Fire up the backhoes.
They're waiting. Jeff has them on his backhoe.
That he does, yeah. So, you know, if we agree with the concept, we move on to the next phase. If we decide that this concept is just not good, then
We figure out a different location or something, yeah. If I may, these guys are being polite. This is all applicant driving this, right? We want to make sure, and that was why the workshops were very helpful. And thanks to Steve for making the time to attend and for Matt. Just to know that we're in the ballpark here. I want these guys to advance the micro topography that they both alluded to and put more definition to these, to how much of this green blob will be, we think will be vernal pool, how much of it will be wetland, how much of it might be some buffer zone. by the time we dial in topography in here, we'll put more definition to that. If this general location and the groundwater information, and I think what we heard from Matt on Monday night was this is the right place to try to do this. Based on what we know about it, that would be the next step in my mind, would be to send these guys forward. If this was a spot that Matt looked at this and said, or the commission felt this wasn't a viable location to do something like this, we'd go find another one, and I wouldn't spend the money on micro topography in here.
So I will say I'm looking at a plan that you're not showing on the screen right now, overall restoration plan.
Probably the
Page
first plan that's shown in the
627,
packet that you provided. Do you have that, Austin?
And it would be really helpful for me on this plan to have these buffer zones labeled or called out.
Austin, you had a plan, I'm
Same
sorry.
Relative locations on it, but it doesn't call out what all the other lines are.
You-
Which.
And there's
I can go
also,
to another plan and see, but that's like not.
there's also some labels that kind of block out some imagery, so yeah, we realize it.
For like our records, the wetland planting area and buffer zone planting area symbols should match what's depicted, so like color them green, basically.
There's like one that's hatches on it, like dash lines. Ah, okay.
Yeah, we clean that up.
So that was part of the original submittal. And we haven't changed that plan yet because we want to make sure that there's a consensus here. That plan will be updated, and admittedly, the hatch from a graphic standpoint kind of makes your head hurt. So Matt, like we did with the overall impact plans, we did contrasting colors here, which I think makes it substantially better. So
So
graphically,
much good colors for me is for like not having a legend for all this stuff, and I think it's really hard for me to make a decision on the plan without having that.
totally agree with you. Yeah, and I think part of the different areas, you're looking at the different colored areas, there were early estimations of replication area, buffer zone area. I think what the micro topography will do will allow us to fine tune those numbers and come back to you with a color coded plan and topography that supports it for the commission's consideration and Matt's input. It'll have the legend you're referring to. Everything will be very clearly distinguishable.
You had a plan that had green, blue, and pink, I think. Matt was all excited.
Yeah,
I did like it.
so that plan,
Before you read, what's the bean shaped one at the top? Yeah. That was.
that's the riverfront buffer.
The overall big loop she's talking about, the dotted
Yeah.
line.
Oh, the actual line.
It doesn't really go with the rest of the lines.
So there's a section of stream in there. That's the wetland A series. There's a section of stream inside that wetland A series that is considered perennial, and then we had the riverfront buffers on that. So that kidney shaped thing you're looking at there, that's the riverfront buffers, the 100 and the 200.
For bean.
100 and
Yeah.
200.
For the bean.
Sorry, Steve, did you have a question?
No, they're just trying to close the loop for Ariel there.
I think one of the questions that I have is, I know enough to know when I don't know something, and I don't know if there is, as Jeff just phrased it, a better place that Matt would say on the overall site. If you had anywhere to choose on the site map, as a commissioner, I'd rather know you. What do you think? Is there a better spot on the site for wetlands replication than what they're proposing, if you could pick anywhere on the site? And if so, is the reason that you would pick that site important or valuable enough for us to say that don't proceed with this stuff on this site in this location to do this, because we think there's another spot? I know that they're proposing this, you work with them to tweak and look at that area, but I'll ask, have you had a chance, Matt, to look at the overall site and say, yeah, the whole site, that makes the most sense to have that size replication or that size replication with vernal pools of X amount of square footage and so forth, that overall, that from an environmental point of view, ignoring for a moment the fact there's a huge building and parking areas and all this other stuff nearby. Does that make sense? Because I don't know enough about the rest of the site to know that. One of the things I was gonna ask Austin, if we ever had the paper plans, was to start, I would actually start circling with your assistance at some meeting. Areas that we've discussed for this versus that versus this, because I know it's a moving target sort of, but we have covered in previous commission meetings and not wanting to go back and re-investigate if it's the first time, as if it was the first time when it's not. We've already covered this area. We've discussed this delineation is good for this area. This one's still questionable. We weren't sure. We did some soils recently. One of the last things Club and did was go out with Brian, I think it was you, wasn't it? I thought I saw something in the notes here from Matt, or maybe it was with Matt. Yeah, and they delineated and stuff by the cul-de-sac to determine. So I don't have a good sense of where we are with some of those areas. And before I make a decision like, yeah, you guys should invest more time and effort and engineering and money into tweaking this and more mass time and another planning meeting, I'd like to have a step back a little bit view and say, yeah, that does make the best site. I don't know enough to know if it's the best site on the spot, best spot on the overall site.
So I think that's how I tried to approach taking a look at the materials that were provided to the commission in advance of Monday's meeting, which this plan and the subsequent sheets that have the soil board data and zoomed in images of each of those green and pink areas. You've given the site constraints of the proposed building and parking and existing wetlands. My takeaway from that evaluation was these are reasonable places to be looking at wetland creation and buffer zone restoration. And I think as I got through the document, I understood, I started ignoring the square foot calculations because it's all very vague at this point. Just, this is kind of the 12,000 foot. We'll do something here, we'll do something here. That's how I was seeing that. And it looks pretty reasonable to me. And that the conversation we had Monday and my look at the documents, I come away feeling like I think they're looking in the right spots for wetland creation. And as that starts to refine and they start to refine what's available for buffer zone, then we can start looking at numbers and seeing where everything turns out. But
obviously you're keeping an eye on, as you started to mention, we're not impacting any wetlands areas to create new wetlands, because that was something that had been brought up months ago in previous meetings, where, you know, you can't claim credit for creating wetlands area where there's already wetlands being, or destroy wetlands to create another, what kind of wetlands, that's not, you know, not flying. But this sounds like, from the description that Austin just gave and Ryan just gave of the work that you're doing, stripping the layers and putting in another layer, so forth, sounds like a lot of effort to try to create something where my frustration is, isn't there a spot where you wouldn't have to do as much disruption impact? I'm not care about the cost or anything like that. I'm sure it would be a big cost to do this. I mean, you would spend the money if you didn't have to. But are there no other spots of comparable size, or maybe two smaller spots, that are better for, from an environmental point of view, to create wetlands than this particular one? Because the way you just described it, the amount of work involved, seems like you're almost forcing it more than in the way you are. You're creating man-made wetlands. That's what you're doing. And it may evolve to eventually be more natural, but it's not a wetlands now, and then you're going to create one.
Yeah, if you don't mind me answering first.
And Brian,
Sure, thanks. So that is the one area of many replication areas where we are establishing a perched groundwater system. Everywhere else, we're tapping into actual groundwater and really results in minimal regrading effort. We selected this area for the perched groundwater replication area because of the fact that we identified some perch condition out in the field. The topography is undulating, the vegetative cover is somewhat sparse in this area. It's been historically manipulated. Maybe not a ton of wildlife habitat value currently. But also there's going to be the hydrology discharge from subsurface infiltration basins, you know, creating a source of water. You know, with all those factors combined, you know, we felt that this would be an appropriate location. Whereas the other ones, again, are just tapping into groundwater, minimal excavation effort.
you'll recall this was originally, there was some wetland replication proposed up immediately adjacent to vernal pools up in this neighborhood.
Do a planting legend.
And that was one of the things we talked about, not impacting what little available non-breeding upland habitat there is. That
We were gonna
kinda
destroy the upland to create a little more vernal pool.
Yeah.
Habitat, which
And
doesn't
without
really-
pushing away from that was smart. And because this is, it's a weird area, you know, you walk into it, it's like, something's weird here. It's like you've got water staining, but there's no plants or whether there's a tree canopy.
Very
but-
like a higher canopy.
Yeah, it's a very odd setting.
But
Yeah.
while you're creating a perch, what, no, you said perch something, it was, perched basin, whatever. Perched soil area. You're all, and you mentioned the undulations are there and the perched soil is there, so, but my first reaction was, yes, but the way you just described what you were gonna be doing, you're gonna be stripping away the perched soil, you're gonna be creating new undulations. You're gonna be removing the rock piles, which I remember walking around and so forth there, and so while it may have had everything, you're basically removing everything and then putting it all back in a different way to mimic more accurate. It just asking the question, because again, I don't know enough about the overall, I remember the vernal pool site, and I was one of the people who mentioned, we're gonna chuck all these hills down to right next to these vernal pools, that seems crazy, you're gonna damage them, and they're viable vernal pools, but and I agree with the way that can make sense, but I don't know enough about the rest of the site to the right of the road as you're walking in,
Yeah.
where you have a couple of green areas, so, but are there better areas that could be, you know, as there? Again, not taking away from wetlands, and if you're using groundwater to tap into naturally, you don't have to do as much disruptive stuff, that's fine too.
It might be helpful, because, so this is one, we're looking at it kind of through a vacuum, as we should be looking for some of these things. The context for the balance of the site and the other areas we've selected may help form, believe it or not, how you're viewing this one too. To Brian's point, we've selected areas that we thought were as least invasive as possible, provided the highest likelihood of success in establishing of a functioning wetland. And, you know, it's been a while, but this is one of the areas we walked around in the field there. I distinctly remember kind of coming over the top of that ridge and going, huh, that's interesting. We should look at a wetland there, because it felt like it had hydrology. It felt like the characteristics were there. Does it require a little manipulation to really get it to kind of that gentle push over the edge to make it really a standing wetland system, as opposed to something that water kind of flows through? Yeah, but all the other pieces are there, and with a little nudge, I think it becomes.
Well, the nudge includes, just not to forget, the feeding from the underground.
Sure.
Basements under the parking lot. Without that, would the hydrology work? Maybe we'll collect enough water around something, because then you're creating enough.
It has hydrology now. The intent for us is to kind of mimic that to the extent that we're able, you know, we're controlling it, but the idea is that we're not substantially altering the hydrology going there too. We're just kind of routing it through our stormwater base.
If it was functioning as a wetland now, it would be a wetland. But
Hence the.
So it needs
the
some,
creation,
it needs
yeah.
some assistance to maybe get it to that.
Ballpark.
Maybe a
size,
lot of us.
Roughly, I know Matt did not focus on square footage, but about how many square feet is that green area?
Might be labeled down there.
Just to give you a perspective on.
The drawings I have some calculations on them.
That's about 23,000 square feet.
Half an acre.
Half an
Half
acre.
an acre.
Why the need to deepen it? Is that to accommodate the stormwater runoff that's feeding into it?
Not necessarily. It's basically to create more of a bowl depression, a collection area for surface runoff. So it collects in pools in a specific area.
And you need a certain amount of depth. If you're gonna create a vernal pool, you're gonna need a certain amount of depth to be able to hold water for the length of time necessary.
Exactly. That
So
being.
if
the
it's all this
primary
deep,
collection.
if it's all this deep, it's gonna dry up. You need some depth in places to foster that vernal pool habitat.
And it's not that deep currently.
No, right now, there's a lot of undulation going on.
That, just put this on the table, that's gonna be an interesting one to get right.
Yep.
Have, you know, if we're gonna have a vernal pool hydrology that's in a perched system, you're gonna rely heavily on evaporation, transpiration.
Can someone expand on perched system, please?
So perched, meaning it's primarily surface runoff fed, or it's not being fed by groundwater coming. So it's whatever water that's not draining into the ground. It's basically being held up by that restrictive layer, whether it be just precipitation or just surface runoff.
Overburden.
Hmm?
Overburden.
So there's no natural feed, it's all surface runoff, so that would include all the contaminants that come with that.
Are you
Does that
talking from
affect
the
the life?
stormwater management area or just
Yeah,
from the general?
If it's a vernal pool, our vernal pools somewhat more naturally fed, which is why.
I mean, the rainwater is effectively clean. Or is considered clean. The discharge from the subsurface infiltration system would be considered clean. So it is treated or clean.
I'm not a criticism, I obviously would want it to work for you. I'm just curious if there would be a higher percentage of something acidic in it, or that would create complications for success.
I kind of wonder if there's something like that there currently.
Which is why
So
there's not a
weird.
whole lot of vegetation.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with creating perched groundwater systems with some level of surface runoff contribution. Matt is absolutely correct. This is going to be the most difficult one and needs the most oversight.
The feed from the parking lot is gonna go into catchment basins or whatever, underground into. Not holding tanks per se, but a treatment of some sort, get the sediments and so forth out, which will be obviously clean those mechanical devices. What deals with dissolved salts in the water that's going in there and then eventually being released out into the wetlands area?
We had this, I think this is one of the conversations we had early on as we were kind of flying down through the clouds when we kind of reintroduced this project commission. I don't know that there's a mechanical system that really is going to remove that. Part of, there's two things I've seen that you deal with for salt. There's a 1A and 1B, which is you be kind of conservative with the application of it. By that I mean you only use as much as you need, right? 1B is Green Pro Snow certified products, which are alternatives to salt and are substantially more environmental friendly. The third part is infiltration. And that it's salt, if you will, as it's kind of dissolved in the water and it migrates its way through natural soil before it finds its ultimate breakout point, if you will. The infiltration practice is one of, DEP acknowledges it as one of the primary and best way to remove things out of stormwater runoff, because the natural soil material kind of detaches that, if you will. And so infiltration is a big component of that too.
Well, infiltration is things that are suspended.
And things like nitrogen and phosphorus too, like nitrogen and phosphorus, which gets solved, DEP in the stormwater handbook will acknowledge that infiltration is the best way to remove those things, because the natural soil material kind of starts working.
You use the words released, I believe, in describing how the water under this particular parking lot is gonna feed that area. How is it being released? Is it just a pipe that goes out and after it's gone through its treatment, it's then being allowed to flow out at whatever point it reaches in the or whatever underneath there?
Yeah, so it's a series of things. So underneath that parking lot will be what you call a series of chambers. Maybe they're concrete, maybe they're those kind of arched plastic chambers, HDPE chambers, you say. Ultimately, those are connected through a series of manifolds and pipes, and they'll go to an outlet control structure or outlet control structures, as the case may be. Inside, it's a picture an oversized manhole, right? And if you're looking kind of in section view, you'd see like a wall inside that manhole. That manhole would have a series of holes or notches cut out into a weir in there. There'd be some at the bottom, some in the middle, and ultimately like a high flow weir, almost like a spillway at the top of that manhole. Those would be strategically sized, placed, and designed to allow water to flow out of that system at various points, various storm events, so that you're getting steady and controlled releases. That allows for water in some low flow events to slowly matriculate through there and provide contributions to that wetland resource area. The higher flow events, you might see it go over the weir. The ultimate restrictor plate in that system would be the pipe that we would put out. That would kind of discharge on the hill, and the water kind of filter over land before it gets into that wetland system. But we have a series of orifices and holes and weirs that would control all the flow at different stages of the system.
You're gonna control the erosion from down, because the pipe where it exits and comes out to daylight basically on
Yeah.
top of the hill. You're not gonna just pump water, or not pump, let water flow, and even at a controlled rate, a steady flow of water is gonna erode the soil down the hill. You're not gonna want to deal with that. You're putting riprap all the way down.
It'd be armored, so a couple ways, something like this, what I, something when we're looking at, Brian and I've done, this condition, a number of different projects and locations. One of the things I try to employ on something like this, is what we call like a level spreader. So what happens is, if you get linear flow and it's concentrated, that's when you have the highest potential for erosion. So what you try to do is let that pipe come in parallel to the point you want to discharge, right? So if I were sending, say you're the vernal pool and I was sending water to you, I want the discharge from that pipe to come out parallel to you into like a long linear, very shallow basin column. The water comes in, all the energy gets released into that a stone or whatever you do to line that. There's a geotextile in there to maintain the integrity of the soil. Maybe it's 12 inches deep. That water fills up and it has very broad weir, maybe it's 50 feet long. That water then, as it fills up, slowly just kind of leaks over the top of that weir and filters over the ground. And in doing that, you've taken all the energy out of that linear flow. So we use like a level spreader like that to allow that. It's really, you get more even distribution of it, and it's tried and true to prevent erosion and degradation of soil.
You've also created a separation area at that same point, which would help the process, correct? Because as the water slows down, solids drop.
Sure, and in theory, the water that's coming out of the system
Shouldn't have much solids in it.
should have, but at that point, yeah.
So this, and thank you for that explanation. That helps clarify in my mind somewhat of it, but it immediately makes me think, and I'm not gonna go over more of this because I realize we've gone on this project a bit longer than I want to tonight. But my question was sort of directed towards, where's the infiltration happening to get the salt water? Because you have a large parking area that's gonna be treated for salt with salt. Gonna go down in there, and the system it's contained underneath does not do infiltration and treatment, yes. But then it's gonna come out of pipe and eventually flow, not soak through and then gradually filter through the soil. And have that infiltration factor to remove it into an area that's extremely high, hydrologically, environmentally sensitive. You're trying to do vernal pools, and I don't know what level, I have no idea what the level of tolerance that vernal pools and wetlands has, wetlands in general, but vernal pools in particular, and the wildlife, and then that you're gonna try to replicate and create to salt. I mean, salt is a nightmare for us in Bellingham because we're one of the pilot towns. We have to treat every area that's created. And you guys are gonna have to meet those standards because the state requires them, and we're one of the pilot towns. So I don't have any other towns other than us that are still doing it or what, but that was a few years back. So anyway, that was just a point of concern I have.
I think it's a good question. I think that there's two things, and I'm not saying this to dispute what you're saying. I think it's a very good point. It's something we're gonna be cognizant of as we kind of evolve the design further. What I'm hopeful we can do tonight is I still have to go through that and kind of design the system under that parking lot. The goal ultimately, kind of the immediate focus is to get some level of consensus. Hey, cool. We're not saying prove this tonight. We're saying we think it makes sense to explore the next step and then continue to get Matt's feedback along the way, which isn't to be dismissive of what you're saying. It's just that we're not quite there yet. And
I wasn't looking for an answer tonight by any means. I just wanted to sort of resurface, so to speak, that without, overdoing it. All right, I think that, if what you're looking for may or may not be able to get as definitively as you just stated. I understand what you're looking for a direction, so, but I'm not sure if the commission, who have just again received the update today about how those meetings and so forth went, what's the sense of the commission on how you want to provide any feedback at this point in time, or you want to review it and talk about it at the next meeting? And we're certainly going to be continuing.
I really can't say whether it would be good enough to keep going without knowing what stuff is on the plan with labeling and
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
She needs to know more about the planning, labelers and so forth on the plans before she can make any decisions.
labels. I don't think it would be too hard to like get the square footage of the hatch and put it on there to get the estimated based on the preliminary information that you have there about like the areas that you're gonna be mitigating, just like measure the square footage, put it on there, and so that we can see what the mitigation is in terms of the anticipated wetlands that you're gonna be destroying, you know?
We understand that's all information we need. We're not asking for approval of this shape or this, it's really just, and I think Matt tried to say it before, but the hydrology, the location, the surroundings, the tree canopy, hearing from the experts, this is the right place to try. We know we have more work to do to put more definition to this, to put more numbers, to make our hatch clearer.
Great, but we.
Yeah, we understand we still need to do that.
You know, Steve,
Two simple questions, maybe three. First one would be, Matt, is there any other place that you would rather see before they invest any more energy in this place?
I think, you know, to get to that 2-to-1. We're pretty constrained. Right, given the site configuration and proposed structure. So there's not a lot of option.
So short answer is no, there is no other better place.
Yeah, yep.
The second one is, and Jeff, I want to pick up on a previous conversation from our first working meeting and give you an opportunity to expand. Brief comment, maybe it was in passing, that you kind of had it in your head that some of the 2-to-1 ratio was a little less than that in some previous meetings or presentations, and you kind of somewhat had a sense that maybe that was okay or might continue forward. I'm trying to remember something.
No,
coming into the middle.
I think I can
and
put some color, maybe Brian can.
want you to have an opportunity, if that's how you feel, expand on it before we invest any more time.
How I feel is we've got to make the commission happy with the proposal, but I think the point I was making to you before was our original submission, our NOI filing a year ago, almost a year ago, did propose 1.67 or 1.69 to 1, and went on to explain why there were other opportunities to approach the 2-to-1. But those upland areas were forested upland that we didn't feel there was a benefit to disturbing those in favor of creating the wetland. So what we had proposed in the original submission was something less than a 2-to-1. We believe the bylaw allows the commission this discretion, and presented an argument in our filing as to why. We went through months and months of hearings and site walks, and it was only until a few months ago that 2-to-1 was sort of thrown out as you have to get to that. And to me, that was, we had presented and submitted an application that never purported to meet 2-to-1. So that was what, we're now in pursuit of 2-to-1. We have the green area out here is in excess of 2-to-1. We know we have refinements to make and topography to propose to you, and we'll finalize those numbers and make you happy with wherever we land. But that was the point I think I had made to you in the conversation. Was we made a submission that was never 2-to-1, and we rationalized it. There was not much question brought by the commission.
I was gonna say,
for a number of
the
months.
key point is, no one really said, no way.
I think so, yeah.
no way you can't do 2-to-1, or no way.
No way, your 1.6
Is gonna be acceptable.
is gonna be acceptable. No one straight up said
No,
reject
the
it. So
commission stand is still 2-to-1 is the required ratio. It's in the bylaws. We expect that to be finally reached at some point. Could there be setbacks? I think if one of these areas fails, you could be back to 1.75 or something, who knows? But that's you, if you're looking for a direction and are we moving in the right direction, should we invest more money? I think that's gonna largely rely on you all, because frankly, I'm not ready to say one way or the other, because I just don't know enough. Having just gotten a summary of this, I have sensed that things are moving in the right direction, but it's sort of your call. The other concern I have, and want to make sure the commission is okay with this before I give any more approvals for things. How does the commission feel about having
set the precedent with 2 meetings, working meetings with an applicant who is designing huge projects. To have our peer review consultant continue to work with them in a, using Austin's words, collaborative manner, which I think might have been reflected in Matt's comments as well. That's new territory, I think. I don't think the commission, Neil, you've done it a lot longer than I have. Have we ever seen this precedent before? Do we want to continue with this precedent? I'm not saying we shouldn't. I just want to make sure.
I think so far it's been beneficial.
Absolutely, I think it's been really good. Hannah and I certainly work well together, trying to make sure Matt has an opportunity to say his piece at these meetings and which is important. And give him the opportunity to, and the freedom to say, no, we can't do that, we gotta go this way, if he feels he needs to.
If I may, as a conceptual plan, what they've laid out tonight, I think it's probably worth them pursuing the next level. I know this is not the detailed plan.
There's a lot of
this is not
work.
The final plan, they don't have the final numbers, but are we looking at an area that is worth them exploring further? Because it has the potential to get us to 2 to 1 and be a viable area that they can do the recreation. I think it is worth, if they're willing to spend the time and energy to go forward to the next step
Which is
and
the
try and
primary
fine tune this, then I think that I feel that that's an appropriate avenue.
I
for us to
agree,
pursue.
and I think the next step should definitely include the things that I
Yep.
mentioned earlier.
There are more drawings in this set that I didn't know.
Let me, Noel, I know you're online, you've been very quiet. I want to make sure you as the Concom member, again, for the record, who is offsite on Zoom. Do you have any input? How do you feel about what's been proposed tonight? Is it something where you feel you're comfortable in giving any kind of indication that you thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways?
I think it was good progress tonight. I like the ideas they proposed to us. I think it would be beneficial for them to kind of elaborate more on this and move forward with it.
Well, this is a huge project, and the previous site had another huge project on it proposed before some of these members' times. So I just wanted to make sure that they're aware that this is a new precedent that has not been in place before, to my knowledge, and usually the approach would have been from the Conservation Commission, as the applicant may know. Prepare your plans, bring them to us, we'll have our peer review look at them, we'll look at them, we'll ask questions, we'll say what we don't like and so forth, and then you take it back, and if you have to rework things because things didn't work, or suddenly part of it had to be knocked out, that's on you, and then you come back to us as many times as you want to do that, and that's the key thing. But it came from you to us, we review, comment, go back to you. The working together to come things may be more efficient, but it is a different approach, and I really want to make sure that Matt is always kept in the, you tell me what you think of these working meetings, and I'll give you my feedback and say yes or no, this things make sense in general, while not helping design the plan.
We're not designing your project.
Right, and in particular, in particular, that's not, so in my initial plan, like, I only got time to read the first page before I got here tonight. I wanna read through that a little bit and make sure that I have a sense that, yes, it is truly you guys taking the lead on every aspect of these working meetings. And he is reviewing it, the Concom members or Hannah is observing, maybe asking a question, but Matt is paid for technically by you guys because that's the way the peer review works, funding works. But he's working on our behalf, and I trust that we wouldn't be using PSC if we didn't trust that he's be able to represent our interests and needs and so forth. So again, this is new ground for us. I just want to make sure all the commission members understand that. I'm amenable to whatever direction the commission wants to go in. It sounds like their majority of the members are saying that what they've seen tonight sounds pretty good to them. Certainly, if something falls through, that's on you guys because you know, whatever the engineering doesn't work or the science doesn't work, whatever.
Of course.
But if you think that this will help you meet the 2 to 1 replication areas and replication requirement, and you want to proceed with it on that basis, I think the commission's overall consensus is that that's okay. The second
As
question I
long
have,
as we get copies of documents similar to that, which are essentially minutes.
Yeah,
I
I
continue to have people-
apologize for dropping that on you at the last minute, but I did want to get just something on
I mean,
paper.
I think there are probably some better, I think there's probably some better areas in here that we can utilize. but I don't think.
Why you gotta be like that?
Marked as an already a vernal pool, so you don't have to do any work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd probably be a better.
A little courtyard in the middle of the warehouse is fine. So the next question is, does the commission want to approve any more working meetings? We did one, we kind of let it go to two, but the original motion was to approve a work meeting and as a trial thing. So we've done two, they seem to have been successful. Matt's funding, just from a cold hard numbers thing, included three or five. Three public meetings, this is one of those, and two working meetings. After that, the funding level for BSC doesn't include any money for site walks if we're gonna do additional site walks.
Yeah.
So we need to think about how, if we want to go ahead and have more working meetings, how many, what kind of proposal Matt could propose to the applicant to review and accept before we move forward, because without funding, unless Matt likes to do it for free, which I don't think, he's a nice guy, but not that. And I would also ask if the applicant wants to consider the idea of creating a larger fund for reviews, because again, I would hate to come back every meeting and say, well, now we want to do two sidewalks, and that needs funding for that because we want BSC on those sidewalks. You know that ahead of time. I don't know how to prepare a proposal quite that way. Matt might have some suggestions, or Hannah raised her hand.
This,
So, yeah.
this might be unconventional. I don't know. I've only done 3 meetings, but, next meeting, we have one thing and that's it. And it's the 12 and 15 State Street. So if we wanted to make that
A working.
I just think everyone has such different knowledge and perspectives that is useful, I think, to hear.
I will ask I like that idea. The only question, I've done it, I think once. But my question is this: if you're doing what was the word used, Brian? Micro grading, micro topography, and so forth, which is a micro units in both those, but anyway, okay. I don't feel myself that I have anything to add to that. I don't know enough about grading here and undulations there and the soil perk test and so forth to be participating and asking questions that wouldn't slow down your working part of it. However, if there is a different level, higher level, different types of questions, Ariana or Steve or Neil or Noel might have, or Hannah, that you think that, oh, we could benefit from having a working session, so to speak, or I don't really like to call it working session, because really I do not believe it's the job of the commission to have that kind of a agenda with.
Open discussion.
Open discussion is, yeah, I'd like to have a little bit of a point to it, because we can go around, we spent an hour on this. And while I'm happy to spend an hour, because we had that 0 time last time with you, so you technically your 2 hours are now met. Right? I don't think I wasn't counting, but we have other things we need to finish up the meeting. And so I'd like to get a consensus of how, both for Matt's funding proposal, and because he's gonna need that before he can proceed, and the commission's sense of whether you want to meet.
Well, your next step is mostly engineering.
It is mostly engineering, and I was just gonna make a suggestion.
You can do that offline.
We'll do that if we can get the commission's permission to do that. Advance it far enough that we can share with Matt and maybe have one more working session prior to a forthcoming whole meeting here, so we can do something like we've done tonight, walk through each of these areas.
You're ready in 2 weeks, or when you say then another full meeting, you mean the next commission's meeting?
We were throwing around calendar dates for,
We wanted to meet on the 10th.
On our next meeting.
That's why. yeah.
My recollection as well, because I think there was a hearing or a meeting on the
On the
11th.
11th, we were going to.
and the Monday was the holiday.
So we may want to push out,
The 25th, because we want to see whatever, I mean,
Yeah.
even if you have just another working meeting, I like to see the minutes before the day.
right, it would be nice if you got, if we proceed with this and you got some stuff done, that we would get the documentation and enough time to have time to digest it, so that when you come before us, we're more knowledgeable about what we're talking about.
Sure. And Matt, one more question for you. If, as whoever it was, Jeff or Austin has said, the information that they provide to you, the engineering stuff that they shoot to you to review, is that in your scope of proposal already, or would that be considered outside of that?
That would be outside of
Okay,
it.
so I think the first step is he needs to give you a proposal for review of some additional documentation and another working meeting, and you still have one more public meeting. You could come to the next one of ours. I think you haven't done 3. Okay, so at the very least, he needs to get that to you. You need to sign off on it, get the information. Hannah can keep in the loop as far as the proposal goes. And she'll copy me, and any other commission member that want to know. So that you can stay on the same timetable. And given all that, I think you're really better off going to the 25th. I think you'd be pushing it to get everything done by the 11th, including the approval
Well, I mean, I don't know how I think that come up with a proposal for you to review it and to get the funding.
26th is the Wednesday,
25.
is the Wednesday.
Yeah.
23 is the Monday, so if we aim for a working session on the 16th.
You
That
need
would
to
be the
look- you need
Monday.
to look back there too, because.
Yeah, no, or the week of the 16th, so I want to give you more than 2 days. To prepare a memo to get to them so they can, absorb. Like, that's what
Yeah.
happened here, we had
Right,
the Monday afternoon and only had the 2 days for you to get. So I want to have the working session. Far enough in advance of the 25th, so you can digest, prepare a memo, they can absorb. And then we'll come in and review that, if that's, so sometime during.
Because you can't do the working meeting, it doesn't make sense, but if.
yeah, I mean, without,
Well,
I think
we
so.
can
And we can-
coordinate with Hannah and pin a time down and.
Yeah, you guys can, and then share that, and the commission members can
Sure.
make that next working meeting, that's fine, okay, so the commission is on board with the idea of doing another working meeting, I have to get rid of that from now all over again online. And so we'll move to continue this hearing for 217 Hartford Ave to the evening of October 25th. Time to be determined, you'll be notified well in advance about that, but we're just starting the date for now, 10/25. And I have a motion, second discussion. All right, in the meantime, we are going to have a proposal generated from that, if you need to confer out the scope to make sure it's covered, but it should cover at least one more working meeting and any information he needs to review, time for information to review off site and prepare a memo for us as the commission, and then we'll meet again and see what happens as of the October 25th. Well, maybe give it some thought to sidewalks, more planning meetings, how do you guys want to deal with that? We keep pretty good records, Hannah's good with that. Learning more and more as every day goes by, but she's done a great job so far, so we can keep track of that, but I don't want to keep going back every 2 meetings for more funding. We haven't had to do that in the past for even the shop. But again, I was out of the loop with that part of it, was dealt with by the administrator and the chair in the past, so what makes sense we'll do and what doesn't involve. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Thank you, Noel. Online Noel, okay, great, any opposed? Okay, unanimous, thank you, gentlemen and lady, appreciate it, thank you very much. See you all on the 25th, but hear from you hopefully with some info and other stuff, proposals and a date for our stuff, sometime between now and then. All right, thank you.
So Matthew were just showing, was that one of the ones? that you
Yeah.
sent? It was, okay.
So I emailed the whole file, if you want a hard copy, I'd be happy to send that in too.
The file was in a really strange zip order. I think I got it. It was like, it looked like it was from like 1995, like the software itself, when I tried to extract it instead of just being I don't know. Don't know why.
So maybe send it,
Yeah, maybe just that one overall updated one.
that's the overall sheet, I can send the whole file if you want.
Yeah,
I'll send myself, I'll send the whole file again, it shouldn't,
Okay,
yeah.
I don't know.
Software
It looks
thing, we
different.
can,
Because
we have a couple different options we could use to send this.
You know, it's normally in folders, there's always that icon that says extract all, and like you just click it and it's like, it fixes the zip file to a regular file. It didn't, it like opened up, and it had to do it as track.
But what's the one file?
I don't know.
I'll send it to you again, it's no big deal. It might even honestly be emailable, like,
Okay.
He's gonna stay here on.
We're talking about the.
drawings attached.
I want to, can you wrap up quickly? We want to move on to some other items, and I got somebody on the line here that's waiting for us to finish the meeting, so she can go home for the night. Thank you, sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a PDF.
No, it is, there's all these drawings that are hand marked to your letter.
yeah, I just
Yeah.
appended, I took their drawing. And, cause I had gone, when I received it, I went through and just kind of my brain dump.
Thanks.
Highlighting things I was curious about or questioning or concerned about. And so I appended that to my letter.
Yeah.
So you could see what my thoughts were going into that second working.
Oh yeah, these drawings are pretty good. Did you get them?
I
She's
can't scroll past the third one, but
Also, her email, we officially know which one is her email, so she might have missed some things.
Yeah.
Because we've been sending things to Ariana.
Well, this would have been on the website. So, anyway,
Yeah, that one I had open on here, but I think maybe because of Apple, because it seems to be working for you, but after you scroll past like the third site plan, it like resets and then it's like error with PDF. So I gave up and opened a different one.
Now?
Yeah, that's right. We got this, do me a favor, just send out an email tomorrow to everybody in the group, just to make sure that they all have your correct one, and so if you get an email from Marianne tomorrow, it's a test. And Noel, same for you.
Yeah, because I checked my
Or just-
email and I
Yeah,
just
well, I guess
have that email. from you.
don't. Jackson, okay. Okay,
If you have a Hotmail account saved in your email address,
no.
or delete that.
Need anything else from me or?
that's right. Oh, let me see. I'd like to have your input. They're gonna propose what they think they should do for providing funding in the future, but this could go on for quite some time with the
Yeah.
proposals, and I don't know if you can talk to your people at your office or whatever, but if there's some way, I was ballpark saying, if you could hypothetically, not that we're proposing this, have $50,000 at a time put in, we're accounting for all of it.
Right,
We're only gonna use it as needed.
right.
They're gonna get anything back. They can certainly, unlike some applicants who don't wanna pay much money up front or for a proposal.
They can afford it.
But, and that way we don't have to continually stop, and it's on them, because I'll wait and I won't do anything and won't let anything proceed until they get more funding, because that's the way it should be. But just give it some thought if you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, sure.
And thank you for
Yeah,
coming
it's
in
in their
tonight.
best interest to probably fund out ahead.
Yeah, so I'll try to scope something that's a little more generous. I made it really tight, this first change order. And, but I'll be a little more generous and, try to keep it so it's not 50,000, but it'll get us beyond, this piecemeal.
Yeah, I envision we're probably gonna need to do another sidewalk at some point in time. If nothing else, Steve should see that perched soil area that we're talking about, and
Right.
Ariana hasn't seen it either, and if you can make a meeting,
Yeah.
we don't have to do a Saturday morning. If there's a better time, do you all want to suggest? It obviously has to be daylight, but that's now getting to be a smaller window, but,
Saturday is best.
I don't generally have a problem with Saturday morning, so.
yeah, I don't either.
Given enough notice.
Hannah can go to the site anytime she wants, because she's working,
By
not by
myself.
yourself.
If it's planned out, I'll come in on a
Yeah,
Saturday.
okay.
I don't have to do traffic on Saturday.
That's
I
true.
just like
Traffic is very less.
turn off
Yeah,
more.
less.
It's like most of 5 now. So good.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Okay, all right. Good to see you all.
Thank you.
We'll let you know when we're gonna do
Yeah.
a sidewalk.
Before
Hopefully it's
the
not
alarm.
immediate, but I can see it happening before the snow flies.
Sure enough.
It's climate change.
Yeah, I know, right?
45 this morning in my house. Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Okay, 42. There you go.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Thanks, very much. Okay.
We wanna hit the other business.
Yes, before
Higher taxes.
I'll accept a motion to, continue the Blackstone and North Street project hearing for the townhouses, which was under rediscussion with the planning board. We extended it to, continued it to the hearing tonight. So it's continuation for Blackstone and North Street. And I'll take a motion to continue it to the evening of the 25th. There's no rush to do it. We don't have any sense of the planning board or anything, how that's moving along, but
Well, that's what they asked for too.
they asked for it too.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It is. So,
That's the better reason.
that's the best reason, as we all know. So I'll accept the motion. I haven't heard one yet.
Nice meeting you.
Oh, thank you. I could be so soft spoken. Speak up.
I am.
Okay, Steve says second, thank you. You know, if
You know I left.
Noelle left, and that's okay. She needed to be here for that thing. That's fine. But I'm a little more concerned that Tina's not on. Is she taking the recording and using it to
I
transcribe it?
I
Okay.
think in the end, yeah,
So
that's what she did the
that
last.
was motion made and by Ariane, seconded by Steve for Blackstone and North Street. I'm saying it for Tina. To move it to the evening of October 25th, continue the hearing to 15. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, thank you. Yes. All right, so we have application decisions online.
Yes.
Speaking of that, real quick, the last one, would it help to have like a separate table that is on our minutes that has our other active projects? They don't have the time, and like maybe a separate header, like other projects not scheduled tonight or something, like.
For other people, when they call me and they're like, where is this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, this one technically should have been, I missed it too completely, I forgot all about it, and I shouldn't have, but, anything that's been continued on, we just need to reread the minutes, make sure it's on the agendas too, somewhere, because
Yeah.
it should be. But yeah, we can consider modifying that somewhat, so, and at some point in time, we need to talk about timing, because Hannah has, and I've talked about this some. For scheduling, she has some real good thoughts and feedback on this as the person who is primarily responsible for creating the agenda that we're seeing here. With our signing on. Anyway,
Part of the problem tonight I like the open concept, but
Yeah,
part of the problem is that we just wrapped up the WMS.
yes,
And they
Yeah.
went, the WMS, they went,
yeah, and part of that.
and I told them 30 minutes before, and part of that was on us too, because we kept asking.
Well, asking questions, it took a little while to get Noel online.
But you're right.
Yeah, we should definitely, going forward, as the next meeting, unless we do make
But
the
like
whole
a
meeting.
buzzer.
Yeah, at the next, remember the time, I'm gonna pick time.
Right. And start.
the sand of time.
Yeah. If we do make a whole meeting for them, except for Charles Chase Street meeting, which somebody suggested,
Yeah,
then we may have to give them a bit more than half an hour, because it would make sense to have them come in.
Guys, I had to come
They
in
can
an
have a
extra
working meeting
evening for
some
these
point in
work.
time, and only
So-
half an hour. But we could just have to tell them, so they understand
Okay.
clearly. And then we have to make
Well,
sure
we just
shut up.
have time management, to give them a certain amount of time, and you have to manage the time.
Well, and we'll have to make them first and then Chase Street second, so that all this one is sitting there as for line. Which we've done, that's one of the reasons we're putting time on.
Other
Um,
areas and they-
okay.
Maybe.
Well, we can just say that we've allocated an hour and we're coming up on the time and we need to wrap it up.
Sorry,
Yeah.
You just need to be upfront that
That's fine.
you've got an hour.
Applications and decisions online.
So because all this stuff is public, something that Amy brought up to me that might help people call me less, is to just put the decisions and the applicants directly on our page. If they're curious what's happening in town, they can look at it right there, since it's all public information anyways.
As someone who does phase one assessments, I would love that.
Okay.
So would we be looking at
Yeah.
something posted on the website that looks basically like the agenda, maybe with not all this information or some of this information? I mean, this has the location, the type of project it is, the.
Some other towns,
About like
some other towns have a little,
towns have like recent projects or like upcoming.
Yeah.
projects, they have like.
Medway has something like that.
I'll look on their website.
Yeah, poke around some other communities' websites, because they do have a thing, things that are in progress, things that have been recently, they move things to the recently approved
Yeah,
or the approved column or recently approved column, whatever. They just move things around so
Okay.
people can just navigate through there a little bit better
Okay,
and probably cut down on the number of what's
Yeah.
going on with this?
yeah,
Yeah.
and
I
there's
do
people
assessments.
calling for things that aren't even on our stuff yet, but will be heading away, Maplegate, like,
yeah,
the
they hear
golf
about it. in
club
town,
is
they
gonna
want-
happen.
They're probably shopping the planning board site.
Yeah.
Right, so anyways, I just wanted to make sure if I did that there isn't any concerns that I should be considering.
Only if there's something that we shouldn't be posting legally, but if other boards and other towns showing that, it's probably a good example of this probably.
I mean, it's
All
all,
of
anything
these
we're doing is a public record.
It's just how,
I don't have any.
until we post the minutes, that's the only way they know how a decision's been made unless they were watching me, so anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
5 Fifth Ave, I know, 5 Fifth Ave. 5 Fifth Ave, right across from it is our property. It's Conservation Commission property. There are people who have been dumping, their yard waste there, bottles there.
So this is over just past the bridge on, Charles,
Mhm.
or first, fourth, second.
And there's a
Charles, sorry.
small trail that goes from that, basically that property to the baseball park. Which I think if the public naturally created this trail, they obviously want it. Maybe it's kids who don't want to walk in the street or whatever. That's like in my mind, fine. But at the end of the day, it is our property and there's dumping happening. What do we want to do about that? There's no sign.
What's the address?
5 Fifth Ave,
So it's the house one back from the,
the.
High Street.
Yeah,
Can we put up a wildlife cam, get a picture of them, blast them on social media? and like-
well, I think we probably need to start with, I think we probably need to start with signage.
I think
You think
signage.
signage is gonna stop someone?
No, but I think that's where we have to start somewhere. We can't start with firebombing their house.
No, just- They-
They, The vice chair did not imply in any way that that
No, I was just saying, there's a measured response, and I think signage would be the appropriate first step.
All right, so,
If
all
anyone
right,
has
we need
questions,
to,
you
we
can
need,
drop
okay, okay. So signage, I think, is a good start. Anybody disagree with that? Nope, okay.
And we're okay with the trail being there. That is not formally
I
created by
don't
us.
know that we can stop the trail from being happening if it's used by ATVs or just walking through it.
Walking, it's,
Okay.
it's that.
I put a sign right on both sides, or right in the middle of it.
That's-
We have
That's
some-
actually an appropriate, that's kind of an appropriate use of Concom property.
Yeah.
There's people walking in the woods.
It'd be nice if we could find a group in town that would be willing to walk it and pick it up, like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, some other civic group that would be willing to.
But I would come out on
County
a Saturday morning and do this with you guys.
We could, yes, we could. What's
Okay.
it-
Chain gang.
Thank you, next.
Okay, so those COCs, I have them all set up for dot loop already, hoping that you guys are gonna say yes. I'm gonna share it to you guys. You should get an email from them. Please tell me if you don't.
That would be fantastic.
What is
Do you
this?
think it's?
The dot loop for signatures.
Dr. Luke, so she
Oh,
got sent some
what did I-
COC,
I need to fix
certificate
it,
of
yeah.
completion. For 5 and 11 Lovers Lane and Cambridge Septic. Candlelight, any Candlelight, sorry, and then there's a septic, is that,
There's not a true address. It's the end of that, whole development. There's something.
so Candlelight's whole septic system, a septic system for Candlelight Lane? More than one
It's
house?
like yeah, yeah.
And
I
it's
don't
a
know. That's
septic-
how it was set
They have
up.
a shared septic.
Or
That's gotta be drainage.
maybe I meant septic drainage.
It's good, no,
Or
not
just-
septic
just
drainage,
drainage.
just road
The-
drainage.
It
The
didn't
other-
have it was a very confusing title and I just put Candlelight there because that's all I got. But maybe septic's the wrong word.
Yeah, it's not septic.
It
They
might
have
be a
individual
detention
septic.
basin or infiltration.
Okay.
Part of the,
I think it's still-
That's that
Wait a second,
big-
whoa, 1 second.
part of the neighborhood extension where I live.
Yeah.
Has a common leach field and pumps.
Candlelight doesn't.
This is what it was titled. Douglas Drive, Silver Lake Road, Dupree Road, Sewer.
Oh, sewer,
Sewer.
so sewer
Sorry.
is different.
It is. You're
And-
right.
They're looking
Oh.
for a certificate of completion for that?
Yeah. it's
That's-
from years ago.
That's the access, that's where the sewer line runs cross country.
Yeah.
Probably the restoration of that where the Hall Road was.
Yes, yeah,
Have we looked at it?
I went out last week.
It looks all,
I mean, according to the order conditions, everything is,
it's grown in nicely, there's no erosion, nobody's.
No.
ITVing it, okay.
No.
So those, and so we're getting COCs for 3 different things, 5 and 11 Lovers Lane, that's 2, and then 1 for the Candlelight.
Sewer line.
Sewer line.
yeah, I need to change the title, but yes.
Sewer guys.
And then eventually I have the order conditions set up for 236 Flashstone. I need to edit the, special, and then I will also send that out.
Okay, so yeah, 236 and with the Snet Trail. You're gonna do an order of conditions for that.
Yes.
And yeah, if you want somebody to review it before and see if there's anything we must.
yeah, just
Okay.
compare it to some of the boilerplate stuff to some of the old ones that Ann did.
Yeah.
Cause if you keep copy over the
Yeah.
same boilerplate stuff, you know, again, the notifying you when they put in the erosion control, so you can go and inspect it and all that kind of standard stuff,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
fill in the blanks after that. But she had a good template there, so that's
Yeah.
good for you to use and just expand upon.
Okay.
186 Maple?
186 Maple, just a refresher, they're the ones who had a nice meadow, natural, whatever you guys asked for. And then freaked out and bulldozed, well, they didn't bulldoze it, they just
Mowed it.
mowed it intensely. And I went out there, talked and looked and pointed at everything that was supposed to be according to your guys' order of conditions. We now have a new updated call it order of conditions slash just really having their formal O and M. And I think I added that to our thing. It was an email.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that I sent them something and then they summarized it coming back and that's what I screenshot to you guys.
Yeah.
So. From what I understand, we're on the same page, but they
Uh-huh.
wanted you guys to read that.
I did have a
It'd be
question
okay.
about part of
Where
this.
is this?
This is the corner of the solar project on Maple Street where you drive in. Right in
Right
that
before-
corner, there is a
Okay,
small triangular shaped area that was the only wetlands.
Right.
there. They, in their panic to deal with planning board, who was upset about the
Invasive.
bridge,
Yeah,
the fence was falling down spots, because the brush was pushing it over, because whatever, for the name, whatever.
So they went out and give a line, rather than the right act, they want their bond back, the developer of the site. And they hired a company, and the company went out and just mowed everything, including the wetlands there.
And then basins and all of it, yeah.
Yeah, and then they have responded on this thing to things about the fence and about other stuff. They're talking about treating with the words that I like, specifically within the buffer zone. Invasive species will be targeted with herbicides instead of wide sweep application techniques in order to reduce herbicides negatively impacting the native species. Within the buffer zones, I don't think we would want them to be targeted with any kind of herbicides. I think there should be mechanical removal.
That's not, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine.
It's just not the best thing for that type of species because you have to be able to get completely the root out or else it expands. So when they say target, they mean cut at the base in like a syringe.
Right.
What is it, Phragmite?
Japanese knotweed.
Not we, yeah, yeah.
So as long as we're clear on what it was, the way that was phrased was, instead of wide sweep application, so they're not putting a sprayer over it and
Right.
filling everything, that's fine.
Well, no, that's what they're trying to avoid.
Right, they're not doing that, right? So
They will
I
be
just
doing
wasn't
that
clear with,
outside the buffer zone in a place that's well over 100 feet.
yeah, that's fine. Mowing around it, they're gonna keep the 3 foot along the fence. They're supposedly gonna let give them a management plan. Instructions to the vegetative management contractor, so the area maintained as prescribed above, meaning don't mow over the wetlands again. My question is, do we want to release the money that I don't even know how much it is in bond?
I want to say 8,000, but don't.
Which is
quote me.
what they're looking for is the end of the 3-year compliance period that supposedly has come. Planning board may have their own agenda and not be willing to do this anyway, but my question is, do we want to make them wait until we see next year what the vegetation looks like in that wetland there that they mowed over? Maybe it'll come back and it's perennial and it wasn't dead, killed everything. Maybe it will.
They stopped the clock as far as I'm concerned on the monitoring by mowing it.
And apparently, part of it was their overreaction to the fact they hadn't maintained it almost at all in any of the areas around the fence and everything else in the past couple of years. They let stuff grow, which is better than killing everything, but it got too much. It was pushing the fence over in some spots because the vinyl fence is not that well put in or whatever. And that's planning board on that part. But even the critter clearance under the 6 inches or so along the fence, along that whole length of the fence was blocked on both sides with vegetation so thick that critters couldn't get through. And they have apparently addressed that by mowing.
Yes, it's fixed now. Yeah, I think that they were just mowing like once or twice a year kind of situation.
Anyway,
Uh,
so if the commission wants, what were they looking for? What was your sense from this email that you got, that they're looking for a response like right away, or this is just?
They
Let's-
emailed me today saying, let me know what you guys talk about, if you approve those updated.
So I don't see anything in here of them other than we won't mow it again. We're gonna treat the weeds, the non-weed, including in the areas that, we're concerned about the buffer zone area with more selective methods about making sure that the replication area that we want, or the wetland area that we have them preserved. Is that replication area? I don't remember. Is either replicated, they created it because.
No, it was already there.
I think,
they were
I
there.
think it was.
I think it was there or there. So whether that area comes back or not, we don't have to hire, we could make them hire a wetland scientist to survey the area, give their evaluation on their time. I think we hold them to their feet to the fire right now because we have the leverage. Give them back their money and there's less leverage to do that.
No leverage.
Right. So what is the pleasure of the commission?
I am with Neil to continue to hold for at least another year until this returns. Now, with that, they're gonna say, do we give them an instruction on what to follow? This, the original?
The original was very vague as far as it didn't say.
What do we, if we tell them we wanna see it a year, at some point, what are we gonna go look
We'll
at?
probably have to reference, this new, where they're trying to spot treat the invasives and just let the wetland regrow itself and see how it goes.
Okay.
Right.
So we're saying, do this, we'll see you in a year.
Yeah, do this. We'll see you in the year and planning board may, as I said, have other additional.
He's not trying to mow it again.
Part of this is, part of the conditions of on the fence part at the very beginning is all on planning board, not us. Okay, do we want to state anything along the lines of, and in 1 year's time, we'll review with the help of the wetland scientists, the area, and have their evaluation that it looks like it's good to go, it's recovered, or it's not, you need to do more, or it's somewhat, but you need to, it's not back where it was probably before.
I think we can just leave it open-ended that, you know, we'll review it in a year.
Okay.
Alright.
I don't think we need to be specific.
All right,
Is this
Yeah,
first
so-
statement correct?
Sorry, what?
Chain link fence clearance ranges 4 to 6. The town is okay with current ground clearance and requires no further modifications.
that's the
Yeah,
chain link fence.
Because on average, it is 6. The parts where they say 4 inches, it's very far and few between. It's just because the land is bumpy. That's why they added that, to be very clear.
And vinyl, I mean, the chain link is two
One
sides,
side.
the back and the back of the site, but the golf course probably is all chain
Yeah.
link.
It's just vinyl across the front,
and
Yes.
a little
a
bit.
little on one side, yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so are you clear with that? You have
Yeah,
any
so
motions?
I'm telling them that they're not getting their bond back or their certificate until next year upon reviewance.
With satisfactory recovery
Yeah.
of the funds there, which we'll review at that time. So
Okay.
we can make that. We make a point of making sure that somebody remembers in here that we need to.
Does that have to be an updated order of conditions, or is it just something I can attach as? You know, do I have to do a new order of conditions?
No, I don't think so. They're asking for money back if the order of conditions is met. I would look into maybe in that workshop there that you have, that materials, that you sent us, something about how you respond when you're not providing the certificate of completion / bond back to a applicant. What are the next steps you need to have to do? If it does say we need to provide the order of conditions, then tell the applicant, we're going to, you can buy some time for yourself to say, no, we're gonna review whether we need to provide you with a new certificate of completion. Or order of condition rather, or whether we are just simply gonna state the order of conditions have not been met yet. And not give you a, certificate.
I think that's fairly common, is that we just say that it's not met yet, and you need to do this and this, and that happens all the time. And I don't think there's a formal
Process for that.
process for that.
Okay,
These people may push back on that, we may have to do something for them.
Okay.
Let's try not to.
okay.
Yeah. My computer died, so I don't know what the last thing I put on there. The agenda.
Oh, yeah, the agenda, it was approved the minutes, so.
Oh, okay.
So I had a couple of things about the minutes, but given the time that it is, and the fact that Tina does not appear to be online.
And Noel's not here.
And no, the minutes, I think it would be fine, but what I was gonna recommend was, there were a couple of really easy things, like the minutes for the, August 9th, the first page is fine, except, I don't know if Ariane was here, I had a question mark for that, but
It was.
the following page, well, that is bad, but the following pages all start off. She forgot to change the date, so they also did a meeting the 26th, little things like that. I mean, easy fixes, a few typos, a few things here and there. We had minutes for, the bigger question was. On 2 of these meetings minutes, the 9th and the 23rd, we say the same thing, which was. In the very end, where we approve the minutes. Does Mr. Scanlon made a motion to approve the minutes from June 14th and June 28th meeting as amended? This is on the August 9th meeting. Then on the August 23rd meeting. I believe it's the same exact thing, so.
Might be a little cutting and pasting going on.
We
here.
would have done it on one meeting, but not both, and I believe it, here it is.
You're calling her out?
I just, we may confuse people. Yeah, so it says the same thing, for the following meeting, so I'm sure we would have done it one, but not both meetings, so again, that's just a minor. Question
Needs to
thing.
go into more detail about the executive session.
Yes, so I have a note here that on the 20th, was it the 21st meeting? No, on the 13th meeting. Yeah. It said that we went into executive session. I don't know if it's saying, seconded and now this thing.
Do you guys, when you look at the minutes, are you looking at it from Word?
I prefer to look at work so I can play around with it.
But you could just like add your suggestions and changes.
Don't say it in PDF and comments.
No, not
No,
PDF,
in
on
Word.
Word. Then
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
no,
have
yeah,
to
no,
like
I've done-
think of everything you're telling me.
I've done it, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'll highlight these. I used to have all systems down. Red means I've deleted it, green means I've added it, yellow means I just got a question about it, blue means whatever. Anyway, yes, so the September 13th minutes say that. We didn't do that. Didn't go into it.
We went to, yeah, here it is, sorry. Commission members, anyway, or second. So on the 23rd, we went to executive session. You said you had a few notes of some sort. You said you have, Anna might have a few. I've got to get them from you as soon as you can possibly send them to me, because we eventually have to submit those to public record. If we have none. that's
do?
big.
We have to
Yes, we
maintain
do.
them.
I was told absolutely.
Our executive session
Yeah.
will no longer, or when releasing them will no longer present. it.
We can decide at some point in time, they have to be released. So if we have no, and longer the time goes by, the more.
So potentially after any legal,
We don't even
Well,
necessarily.
potentially.
We don't absolutely, in this particular case, with the nature of what was discussed and how things may resolve, who knows? We don't have to, we're not gonna do it imminently, but my concern more is the longer we wait, the harder it is to recall. what was
everybody's
done.
memory goes.
Yeah,
through
so
both.
please send me, the two of you in particular, especially and Hannah, send them to Hannah and me, just so we both have it.
I got 2 lines.
Yeah, that's fine. What we had was fine. Whatever you got is great. It doesn't have to be a lot to do. We only spent about 10 minutes talking and. Pretty straightforward, just, anyway, and if you were approached by that particular person that we were discussing at that time. Just tell them that they're not allowed to talk to you, period, and hang them up or disconnect from the conversation, because that's our advice from town council. So, okay, I will forward the minute stuff to you and Tina, and I'm wishing Tina well, because I think she's. I'll accept the motion unless anybody has any other business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Thank you. So I'm trying to remember that record. Thank you. All in favor?